In every era of human history, there are discoveries that refuse to fit neatly into the stories we tell about our past. Objects carved, forged, or engineered with a precision that seems to defy both time and logic. They sit in museums and locked archives, silent yet unsettling, as if guarding secrets we were never meant to understand. These are not legends or fantasies, but real artifacts unearthed from deserts, jungles, and forgotten ruins. Each one raises more questions than answers. How did ancient hands craft mechanisms centuries ahead of their age? Why do certain symbols appear across civilizations that never met? And what purpose did these enigmatic objects truly serve? As we explore these discoveries, we step into a realm where history blurs into mystery, and where every clue opens a deeper, more perplexing puzzle. So, settle in, keep an open mind, and let's venture together into the world of ancient artifacts that continue to challenge everything we think we know. In the heart of ancient Mesopotamia, where shifting sands have covered and uncovered civilizations for thousands of years, lies a small, unassuming object that continues to puzzle historians and archaeologists alike. It is a single piece of polished rock crystal, oval in shape, smooth to the touch, and only a few centimeters long. To the untrained eye, it may appear ordinary. Yet this artifact, discovered in 1850 among the ruins of Nimrud, carries a mystery far larger than its size. Today it is known as the Nimrud lens, or more evocatively, the Baghdad lens. Unearthed by the British archaeologist Austin Henry Lerd, the lens was found in the palace complex of the Neo-Assyrian king Ashurnapal II, a place once filled with carved reliefs, towering Lamassu statues, and the machinery of an empire. Amid such grandeur, the presence of a precisely shaped crystal lens feels oddly intimate, almost personal, as though it once belonged to a craftsman, a scholar, or perhaps someone whose role we still do not fully understand. Most scholars describe the Nimrud lens as a simple magnifier. Its curvature, though imperfect, can enlarge small details when held at the correct angle. In a culture known for meticulous stone carving and cuneiform inscription, such a tool would have been undeniably practical. It could have helped artisans perfect minute details in ivory panels, seals, or jewelry. It could have aided scribes in reading and shaping intricate symbols. In this sense, the lens fits comfortably into the rhythms of ancient life. But then comes the complication. The lens doesn't function particularly well as a magnifying glass. Its polishing is uneven. Its focal point is awkward. It magnifies, but not with the clarity one would expect from an object designed specifically for that purpose. So the question remains, if not a magnifier, then what was it? Some researchers suggest it might have been part of a decorative item, a piece of inlaid art, or perhaps a symbolic object, whose true meaning we no longer recognize. Others propose it served as a burning glass used to concentrate sunlight for ritual fire or to ignite offerings on sacred altars. This too remains plausible. Yet none of these explanations feel entirely complete. The mystery deepens when we consider the lens in relation to other ancient optical artifacts: polished obsidian mirrors from Mesoamerica, quartz crystals used in early Egyptian craftsmanship, and even the sophisticated optics later developed by the Greeks. Could the Nimrud lens be part of a broader, older tradition of experimenting with light? This leads to more speculative terrain, though still grounded in documented patterns. A few scholars have floated the idea that the lens might have been an early component of a primitive telescope or viewing device, while there is no direct evidence to support the existence of telescopes in Assyria. The question lingers: could ancient observers have understood more about the sky than we currently assume? Then there is the fringe theory, uncertain, debated, but persistent, that the lens functioned as part of an ancient optical system for creating detailed carvings, or even for observing celestial bodies with greater precision than the naked eye. allows. Some connected with the astonishing astronomical records kept by Mesopotamian scholars. Others view it as an anomaly, an object that hints at knowledge not fully recorded in surviving texts. Yet for every hypothesis there is an objection. For every explanation, a missing piece. And so the Baghdad lens continues to sit quietly in the British Museum, protected by glass, illuminated by soft museum light, a curious artifact from an empire long gone. A puzzle resisting final interpretation. What was its true purpose? A simple tool, a ritual instrument, a fragment of forgotten experimentation, or is it something else altogether? Something we have not yet learned to recognize. The mystery remains, suspended in that narrow space between vedance and imagination, inviting us to look closer and wonder what other secrets might still be buried beneath the shifting sands of history. And as we leave the subtle enigma of the Nimrud lens, an artifact small enough to fit in a palm, yet vast enough to unsettle centuries of assumptions, our journey through ancient mysteries leads us towards something altogether different. Larger, bolder, a monument not of quiet craftsmanship, but of power carved into stone. From a distance, the Victory Stele of Naram-Sin appears as a towering shard of pink limestone rising from the desert of time. Its surface, weathered yet unmistakably deliberate, captures a single moment frozen from a world more than 4,000 years old. Here in this monumental relief, the Akkadian king Naram-Sin ascends a mountain, surrounded by defeated enemies, his soldiers trailing behind him in organized lines. But what draws the eye first is not the battle unfolding. It is the figure of the king himself. He stands larger than any other, crowned with what appears to be a horned helmet, a symbol typically reserved for gods. The stele was discovered in the late 19th century at Susa, far from the Akkadian heartland. It had been seized centuries earlier by the Elamites, perhaps as a trophy, perhaps as a symbol of dominance over a once mighty empire. Today, it rests in the Louvre, its surface lit softly from above, the king's gaze still fixed on something distant, something just beyond the edges of the carved stone. Historically, the meaning seems straightforward. This style commemorates Naram-Sin's victory over the Lobabai people, an assertion of imperial power, a visual declaration of kingship. The horned crown suggests divine favor, or perhaps divine status. His enlarged figure conveys authority. The defeated enemies depicted in chaotic motion emphasize the inevitability of Akkadian triumph, and yet even within this apparent clarity, questions ripple beneath the surface. Why is the composition so different from other Mesopotamian stele? Why does the king ascend a mountain, a motif more common in myth than in historical record? And what do we make of the alignment of celestial symbols hovering above the scene, carved so faintly they might be missed at first glance? Scholars often interpret the mountain as a literal location or a metaphor for conquest, but some suggest it may represent a sacred ascent, an approach toward the realm of the divine. The Akkadians, like many ancient cultures, intertwined political rule with cosmic order. Victory was not only a battlefield achievement, it was a sign of alignment with higher forces. Could the stele then be more than a historical record? Could it be a ritual object, a declaration that the king crossed some symbolic threshold? A few researchers have questioned the unusual artistic style, the diagonal slope, the exaggerated hierarchy of figures, and the solitary prominence of the king. All feel almost narrative, almost mythic. Unlike traditional Mesopotamian inscriptions with their ordered registers, this stele breaks the format, choosing fluidity over structure. Was this an artistic innovation or a deliberate shift to convey something beyond mere earthly victory? Then there are fringe interpretations, carefully debated, cautiously considered, that propose that stele may encode astronomical knowledge. Some point to the star-like shapes in the upper corner, suggesting They may represent specific celestial bodies or events. Others wonder whether the scene captures not just triumph, but transformation, a king stepping into a role that blurs the boundaries between human and divine. Of course, each theory has gaps. None settles the puzzle entirely, and so the Narum Sinsdale continues to hold its quiet tension. A piece of stone that feels at once historical and otherworldly, grounded in documented events, yet shaped by symbols that reach into realms we may only partially understand. What was the king truly ascending? A mountain of victory, a claim to divinity, or perhaps something more abstract, something we no longer have the language to decipher? Whatever the answer, the carved stone stands unchanged, inviting us to look again and wonder what truths of the ancient world still lie hidden in plain sight. Continuing our journey through ancient enigmas, we leave behind the monumental presence of the Narum Sinsdale, its stone surface, a frozen tableau of power and divine ambition, and move towards something far smaller yet equally confounding. An object so ordinary in appearance that it might easily be overlooked. A simple iron pot. Yet this unassuming vessel, known as the Dorchester pot, carries with it a mystery that has puzzled historians, metallurgists, and enthusiasts for more than a century. The story begins in 1851 in Dorchester, Massachusetts. Construction. Workers were digging a foundation for a new building when their picks struck a layer of bluish clay, uncovering a curious artifact encased deep within a deposit of marl. Embedded in solid rock. Estimated to be over 100 million years old, lay the iron pot. Its surface was corroded, its shape rough, yet unmistakably manufactured by human hands. To anyone examining it, the object was clearly a vessel with a distinct base and rounded sides. A pot that had somehow survived unimaginable pressure and time. The geological context of the find immediately ignited controversy. How could a man-made iron pot exist in rock formations dated to the Cretaceous period, a time long before humans are believed to have existed? Mainstream explanations suggest that the pot became embedded in a concretion, a natural cementing of minerals that formed around it relatively recently. Perhaps it was a case of a buried artifact trapped over decades or centuries by sediment accumulation. Yet the precise circumstances of its discovery, deep within the clay, left many questions unanswered, and the Dorchester pot became an enduring point of fascination in debates over human history and prehistory. Examination of the pot itself reveals an object of functional simplicity, yet it raises subtle technical questions. Its construction is unmistakably deliberate. Hammered or molded iron with a lip that suggests pouring or containing liquids. There is no sign of accidental formation. This is clearly the product of intentional human effort. Metallurgists studying the artifact in later decades noted the composition of the iron, questioning whether the forging techniques could align with the understood technological capabilities of early settlers or even earlier civilizations. Was this simply an overlooked colonial-era artifact? Or does it hint at something much older, something that challenges the conventional timeline of metallurgy? Some researchers propose that the Dorchester pot is evidence of 19th century industry, an iron pot lost, then encased in a concretion over decades. Yet proponents of more speculative theories argue that its presence in hardened sedimentary layers suggests a far older origin. Could this be a remnant of a civilization entirely unknown to us? One that existed long before recorded history? Or might it be the result of natural geological processes that created an uncanny imitation of human manufacture? A coincidence so precise it continues to provoke debate. Adding to the mystery is the broader context of similar finds around the world. Objects that seem to appear in geological layers far older than their supposed human origin. These discoveries often labeled as out-of-place artifacts, include metallic implements, carved stones, and other items that refuse easy categorization. The Dorchester pot sits at the heart of this conversation, a tangible object that prompts difficult questions. How complete is our understanding of human technological development? Could we be missing chapters of history that predate known civilizations by millions of years? Some fringe theories take the intrigue further. Could this pot be evidence of time travel, or of ancient visitors whose technology far exceeded our expectations? While such ideas remain speculative and unsupported by mainstream archaeology, their persistence speaks to the enduring power of the mystery. The Dorchester pot is more than iron and clay. It is a puzzle that confronts our assumptions about history, technology, and the passage of time. Yet there are subtler questions too. Questions that do not demand radical answers, but still unsettle. What does the pot tell us about the people who made it? If they were indeed human, what was its purpose? Did it hold water, grain, or something more symbolic? Every scratch, every curve in its form is a trace of intent. Yet the context of its burial and the immense age of the surrounding rock defy simple explanation. The Dorchester pot also reminds us of the fragile boundary between certainty and mystery in archaeology. Artifacts are usually judged by the layers in which they are found, by the culture they seem to represent, and by the technology they reveal. But what happens when an object refuses to fit the expected framework? When it appears in a place or a time that challenges everything we thought we knew, the Dorchester pot does not shout its answers. It whispers them, inviting careful observation, patient thought, and an openness to the unknown. In the end, the Dorchester pot remains an artifact suspended between eras, a relic that defies simple classification. It is a reminder that the past may be far more complex, far stranger than the neat timelines and textbooks suggest. Perhaps it is a coincidence, a curious quirk of geology. Or perhaps it is evidence of histories we have yet to uncover, technologies we have yet to understand, or civilizations whose stories were lost to time. As we examine the iron surface, worn and oxidized, yet undeniably human in design, we are left with the same question that has haunted those who first unearthed it. What other truths about our world and its past lie hidden, waiting to be discovered in plain sight? The Dorchester pot, small and silent, keeps its secret, and in doing so, it challenges us to look closer, to question assumptions, and to wonder what other mysteries might still be embedded in the rocks beneath our feet. Picking up where we left off with the Dorchester pot, a seemingly ordinary object whose presence in ancient rock formations challenges everything we think we know about human history. We move westward across the vast expanse of North America to a quiet town in Idaho. Here in the summer of 1889, a discovery was made that would spark fascination, debate, and enduring mystery. The Nampa figurine. The figurine is small, barely over an inch tall, crafted from a reddish-brown clay. Its form is deceptively simple, a humanoid figure, roughly shaped with a bulbous head and delicate tapering limbs. Yet for its modest size, the figurine is precise, suggesting an intentionality and skill in its creation. When it emerged from the earth, encased within layers of clay and silt, those who uncovered it immediately recognized it as human-made. But the circumstances of its burial would ignite controversy that continues to this day. The figurine was unearthed by a well-known local collector, an experienced man familiar with the soils and deposits of the region. He had drilled deep into the riverbank near Nampa, hoping to access wells for water, when his tools struck something unusual. Embedded nearly 300 feet below the surface in compacted deposits believed to be of Pliocene age, the small clay figure appeared as an anomaly, tiny yet unmistakably shaped by human hands. Mainstream archaeology has long maintained that humans did not inhabit North America until tens of thousands of years later, and certainly not during the Pleian, a geological epoch stretching roughly 5 to 3 million years ago. Yet there was a figure seemingly defying the established timeline, challenging our understanding of human presence on the continent. The figurine itself is simple, almost primitive, yet its very existence is profound. Its head slightly oversized, in proportion to the body, hints at an artistic or symbolic convention rather than strict anatomical representation. Its limbs are slender but formed with deliberate care, suggesting a figure designed to be held, observed, or perhaps used in ritual. Every line, every curve bears the imprint of intentionality. This is not a natural formation. This is a human handmade manifest frozen in clay for millions of years. Or so the surrounding geology suggests. Skeptics of defy argue that the stratigraphic context may have been misinterpreted. Could the figurine have fallen into cracks or fissures in the soil and become buried more deeply than usual over time? Might the drilling process itself have introduced the object into older layers? These are reasonable concerns, and they highlight the challenges inherent in understanding objects found outside controlled archaeological excavations. Yet even accounting for possible contamination, the Nampa figurine continues to provoke difficult questions. Those willing to consider more speculative perspectives point to the extraordinary implications if the figurine truly is as old as the deposits suggest. Could it represent evidence of an ancient, as yet undocumented, human species inhabiting North America millions of years ago? Could it suggest that early hominins had reached technological or artistic sophistication far earlier than we currently believe? These questions sit uneasily alongside conventional timelines. Yet the figurine demands we ask them. Further intrigue arises from its material. The clay appears fired or at least hardened in a way that hints at knowledge of early ceramic processes. In a time when metallurgy and ceramics are thought to have been entirely absent in the Americas, how could such a technique exist? Was it accidental, a result of environmental heat, or intentional, suggesting a deeper understanding of materials than expected? The Nampa figurine also evokes parallels with other so-called out-of-place artifacts discovered worldwide. Objects that appear in geological contexts predating known human technology. From the Dorchester pot to ancient stone carvings embedded in unexpected strata, a pattern emerges that encourages reflection. The more we uncover, the less certain we become about the neat timelines of human development. The figurine is small, yet it speaks loudly to the persistent mysteries of our past. Even the interpretation of its form is contested. Some suggest it represents an anthropomorphic deity or a symbolic figure, a miniature idol intended for ritual. Others propose it might have served a practical purpose, though what that purpose could have been remains elusive. Every hypothesis opens new questions, and none resolve the tension between the object and the age of its surrounding sediment. Ultimately, the Nampa figurine asks us to pause and reconsider assumptions. It is a reminder that history is not a fixed narrative, but a puzzle constantly reshaped by new discoveries. Perhaps it is an outlier, a fluke of geology and human action. Or perhaps it is a fragment of a far older story, one in which human or humanoid creativity extended deeper into time and space than our textbooks allow. Holding the figurine in imagination, one cannot help but wonder who shaped this clay. For what purpose? And how did it come to rest so deeply, encased in earth that may have witnessed the rise and fall of landscapes long before our species appeared? The Nampa figurine, small and silent, invites us to reflect on the vastness of time and the mysteries buried within it. It challenges our understanding, whispers of forgotten chapters, and leaves us with the quiet, haunting question, what other? Traces of ancient human presence might still lie hidden, waiting to be uncovered beneath the layers of our world. As we move from the delicate enigma of the Nampa figurine, an object small in size, yet monumental in the questions it raises about human history. We now journey across continents to the bustling heart of India. There, standing silently in the sun-drenched courtyard of the Kubba complex in Delhi, is an artifact whose presence continues to defy the passage of time. The Iron Pillar of Delhi, rising nearly 7 meters tall with a diameter of more than 40 centimeters. The pillar commands attention not through ornamentation but through sheer quiet impossibility. Its surface, darkened with age yet remarkably smooth, bears inscriptions in ancient Sanskrit, commemorating a king named Chandragupta II of the Gupta dynasty, who ruled during the 4th century CE. From a distance, it appears as a simple column, a sentinel amidst the ruins of the Kubba minor complex. But closer inspection reveals a marvel that has captivated metallurgists, historians, and curious minds alike. Despite standing exposed to the elements for over 1,600 years, the pillar shows almost no signs of rust. The iron pillar's resistance to corrosion is extraordinary. In an environment subject to monsoon rains, temperature fluctuations, and centuries of pollution, iron typically succumbs to oxidation within decades. Yet, this pillar has endured, its metal surface remaining remarkably intact. Scientists who have studied it extensively point to a combination of high-purity iron, slow cooling methods, and the presence of a protective passive layer of compounds on the surface. The explanation, though compelling, raises further questions. How did ancient metallurgists achieve such perfection without modern tools, smelters, or chemical knowledge? Its construction alone is impressive. The pillar is forged from iron of such exceptional quality that the joints are nearly invisible. Experts suggest it could have been made from 16 separate pieces carefully welded together in a process requiring precise control of temperature and timing. Considering that Gupta-era India lacked industrial furnaces, what methods allowed for such mastery? How did artisans achieve such uniformity in metal of this scale? Some historians emphasize the inscriptions carved along the pillar, which commemorate Chandragupta II and celebrate the king's victories. The Sanskrit text praises the ruler's devotion, his power, and his accomplishments, situating the pillar as a symbol of both political authority and spiritual significance. But why was iron chosen rather than stone or bronze for a monument intended to endure? The choice suggests an understanding of material not only for its structural strength, but for its longevity and symbolic permanence. Beyond the metallurgical marvel, the pillar presents mysteries that reach into the realm of speculation. Some scholars have suggested that its extraordinary corrosion resistance may hint at knowledge of chemical processes long lost to history, an understanding of iron's interaction with the environment, honed through trial, error, and observation. Others have proposed that the pillar might have served purposes beyond commemoration as a religious symbol, an astronomical marker, or even a demonstration of technological dominance intended to awe those who beheld it. Fringe theories, approached cautiously, suggest even more intriguing possibilities. Could the pillar have been an ancient knowledge system in which metallurgy, spirituality, and science were intertwined in ways we no longer fully comprehend? Some point to its precise verticality and the careful selection of its location, hinting at alignments or energies we cannot measure, but which were meaningful to those who erected it. Others speculate that the pillar's enduring resistance to decay might not be purely material, but the result of a deliberate, almost alchemical process, knowledge lost over centuries. It is also worth noting the pillar's subtle interactions with the environment. Scientists have observed that the iron, in combination with the local atmosphere, forms a protective passive layer of misoite, a compound that slowly regenerates when damaged. While the chemical explanation is well documented, the fact that artisans of the Gupta era could consistently produce iron capable of such a reaction is remarkable, even astounding. It suggests a level of skill, observation, and experimentation that continues to challenge assumptions about ancient technology. Even the pillar's very placement evokes questions. Set amidst a complex of Islamic structures built centuries later, the iron pillar predates its surroundings, surviving earthquakes, invasions, and the passage of countless generations. Its endurance is more than physical. It is temporal, a witness to history itself. And yet the purpose of its location, its relationship to other monuments, and the full extent of its significance remain open to interpretation. The iron pillar of Delhi, in its quiet, steadfast presence, embodies a tension between the known and the unknown. It is simultaneously a historical record, a technological achievement, and a puzzle that continues to baffle modern science. Standing before it, one cannot help but ponder the hands that forged it, the knowledge required to craft it, and the intentions behind its creation. Was it simply a monument to a king's glory, a testament to the metallurgical skill of ancient India? Or could it have held deeper, now obscured meanings, spiritual, scientific, or symbolic, designed to endure far beyond the lifetimes of those who created it? As the sun cast long shadows across its iron surface, the pillar remained silent, yet profoundly expressive. It invites us to look closer, to reflect on human ingenuity, and to question what other secrets of ancient craftsmanship may lie waiting to be rediscovered. The iron pillar does not give its answers freely. It asks us instead to consider the mysteries of skill, knowledge, and intention, and to wonder what other technological wonders of the ancient world have been lost, buried, or hidden in plain sight, waiting for eyes willing to see them. Flowing from the monumental achievement of the iron pillar of Delhi, an object whose silent endurance challenges our understanding of ancient metallurgy, we now turn our attention to something almost impossibly small, yet equally enigmatic: the rural metal micro-objects. Unlike towering columns or intricately carved stately, these artifacts are measured not in meters, but in microns. Tiny fragments of metal that defy conventional explanations and invite questions about the limits of both human skill and natural processes. The story begins in the remote regions of the Ural Mountains in Russia, an area long steeped in mineral wealth and geological complexity. In the late 20th century, scientists and geologists conducting routine analysis of mineral deposits discovered fragments of metallic objects embedded within rock formations. At first, the items appeared insignificant, almost like specks of dust under the microscope. But closer examination revealed something astonishing. These micro-objects were not random metallic inclusions. They displayed shapes, structures, and even patterns that suggested deliberate manufacture. Magnified many times over, the neural micro-objects resemble tiny needles, spheres, and spirals. Some are so precise that their symmetry and smoothness appear engineered rather than accidental. Certain fragments even exhibit apparent perforations, or hollow centers, as if they were components of miniature mechanical systems. For researchers trained to study natural formations, the objects were once mesmerizing and perplexing. How could metal, subjected to millions of years of geological pressure, form such intricate uniform structures without intelligent intervention? Mainstream explanations suggest that some of the micro-objects might be natural metallic crystals, or the result of unusual geological processes, such as the cooling of molten metals or the crystallization of iron-nickel alloys. Indeed, the Ural region is rich in rare minerals, and high-pressure metamorphic conditions could plausibly create metallic shapes that mimic certain artificial characteristics. Yet the sheer precision of some structures stretches the boundaries of plausibility. Spheres with nearly perfect diameters, spirals that seem mathematically precise, and hollow tubular forms hint at a level of design rarely attributed to purely natural processes. Some metallurgists propose that these micro-objects could represent the remnants of ancient technological experiments, perhaps microscopic components of tools, jewelry, or machinery lost to history. But if that were the case, what civilization could have possessed the tools and methods necessary to fabricate metal at such a microscopic scale, especially in an era long before any known nanotechnology? And how did these objects come to be? Embedded in geological layers that predate modern humans? Adding to the intrigue is the discovery of different metal compositions among fragments, including combinations of iron, nickel, and trace. Alloys that suggest selective smelting or purification. Could these have been early attempts at metallurgy beyond our current understanding? Or are they the result of natural chemical processes we have yet to fully comprehend? Every analysis seems to answer one question while generating countless others. The rural micro-objects also resonate with other anomalous finds worldwide. From ancient metallic artifacts embedded in rock in North America to the finely crafted tools of prehistoric Europe, there appears to be a pattern. Objects that challenge chronological and technological assumptions. Could the micro-objects be remnants of a forgotten branch of human or pre-human ingenuity? Or might they be the byproducts of natural forces so precise they mimic intelligence? Fringe theories cautiously propose even more astonishing possibilities. Some suggest that these objects could be microscopic remnants of an advanced civilization, perhaps one that existed long before recorded history and whose knowledge of metallurgy and engineering exceeded anything we can imagine. Others speculate that the objects could have extraterrestrial origins embedded in terrestrial rock through impacts or other unknown processes. While such ideas remain speculative, their very existence underscores the profound uncertainty these artifacts inspire. Even more subtle questions linger. Why are such objects concentrated in specific mineral layers? What geological processes could allow metal manipulated or naturally shaped to survive intact for millions of years? And if these structures are artificial, what was their intended function? The answers remain elusive, and the micro-objects resist easy categorization, challenging both scientific methods and imagination. Despite their minuscule size, the rural metal micro-objects have a monumental impact on our understanding of the past. They remind us that mystery does not always arrive in grand monumental form. Sometimes it is microscopic, hidden in plain sight, and only revealed through patience, magnification, and careful study. They blur the line between natural formation and intelligent design, between the conceivable and the improbable. As we peer into microscopes and analyze chemical compositions, one cannot help but reflect on the broader implications. If intelligence, whether human, pre-human, or otherwise, once engaged with the world at this scale, what other traces might remain, waiting to be uncovered? Could the rural micro-objects represent the earliest whispers of technology hidden for eons? Or are they extraordinary coincidences crafted by slow hand of nature? Whatever the truth, these tiny artifacts invite contemplation. They ask us to slow down, to observe, and to acknowledge that the universe and our history within it may be far stranger than we realize. The rural metal micro-objects do not speak loudly, but their quiet, enigmatic presence challenges us to look closer, to question assumptions, and to wonder what other secrets of the ancient world may be lying hidden, imperceptible to the naked eye, yet waiting for discovery. Flowing from the microscopic mysties of the rural metal fragments, objects so small they challenge our very perception of craftsmanship, we now turn to something monumental, haunting, and yet intimately human. A mask of gold unearthed in the sun-baked hills of Greece, whose features have captivated scholars, historians, and curious observers for more than a century. This is the mask of Agamemnon. The discovery took place in 1876 at the ancient site of Messini, nestled in the Peloponnesian Hills, where Heinrich Schlien, the pioneering archaeologist, was conducting excavations inspired by Homer's epics. Among the rich grave circles in a shaft, tomb known as Grave Circle A, Schlien uncovered a series of dreary masks, thin sheets of beaten gold molded carefully to resemble human faces. One mask, larger and more elaborate than the others, immediately drew attention. Its features, high cheekbones, a well-defined nose, and a solemn expression, convey a sense of both authority and vulnerability. Schlien, eager to link his finds to Homeric legend, famously declared it the death mask of Agamemnon, the king who led the Greeks to Troy. The mask's craftsmanship is extraordinary. Beaten from a single sheet of gold less than a millimeter thick, it bears the contours of a human face with subtle, almost lifelike detail. The eyes, though hollow, appear to gaze into the distance. The mouth, slightly parted, suggests a quiet, eternal breath. It is both a work of art and a memorial, a bridge between the living and the dead. The precision of its creation has led some experts to marvel at the skill of Mycenaean goldsmiths whose techniques remain difficult to replicate even with modern tools. Yet the Mask of Agamemnon is not merely an artifact of artistry. It is an enigma wrapped in historical uncertainty. Radiocarbon dating and stratigraphic analysis indicate that the tombs in Grave Circle predate the traditional timeline of the Trojan War by several centuries. This discrepancy raises immediate questions. Was the mask truly Agamemnon's, or did Schlien project legend onto the past, seeking to bridge myth and archaeology? If not Agamemnon, whose face does this mask preserve? Further intrigue comes from the context of its discovery. The mask was found in a shaft, grave alongside other gold masks and grave goods, suggesting a highly stratified society with complex burial rituals. Scholars debate the significance of these objects. Were they symbolic representations of power and status intended to immortalize rulers? Or did they serve a more ritualistic purpose, perhaps as protective devices for the deceased's journey into the afterlife? And why in some masks do the features appear idealized, while in others there is a striking realism that captures individual expression? The mask also raises metallurgical questions. The Mycenaean gold appears remarkably pure, and the methods used to hammer it into thin lei-like forms reflect a sophisticated understanding of metal work that is still not entirely explained. Could this level of skill have been widespread, or was it reserved for an elite few? And how did artisans develop such expertise without written instructions or advanced tools at a time when most metals were crude and utilitarian? Speculation extends even further. Some researchers suggest that the masks might encode more than identity. They may reflect social hierarchy, religious belief, or even cosmological symbolism with features designed to convey specific traits or virtues. Could the subtle variations in facial characteristics indicate lineage, divine favor, or a codified system of representation we no longer understand? Others propose that the masks were intended to capture the essence of the deceased, a spiritual preservation of identity that goes beyond the physical. Fringe theories approached cautiously suggest even more provocative possibilities. Could these masks hint at a lost understanding of metallurgy, artistry, or ritual practice so advanced it has been obscured by time? Could they represent a culture whose sophistication was far greater than the surviving evidence allows us to perceive? The Mask of Agamemnon, like the N, a figurine, or the Ural micro-objects, seems to straddle the line between what we can explain and what continues to elude our grasp. And yet, even with all this scrutiny, the mask retains a quiet dignity, refusing to reveal its full story. Its hollow eyes do not accuse or demand. They invite reflection. They remind us that history is as much about interpretation as it is about evidence. and that our desire to link myth with reality can illuminate truths, but also create illusions. The mask embodies this tension. It is simultaneously a historical artifact, a work of art, and a symbol whose meaning may forever remain just out of reach. Standing before images of the mask, one cannot help but feel a profound connection across millennia. The hands that shaped it, the eyes that once peered through it, the rituals that surrounded its creation, all speak to human experience, ambition, and mortality. And yet the questions linger. Whose face does this truly preserve? What secrets of Mayan society, belief, and artistry remain hidden beneath its thin sheet of gold? Could there be meanings lost to time, deliberately encoded in form and detail that we are simply not yet capable of deciphering? The Mask of Agamemnon, like the other artifacts we have explored, from microscopic metal fragments to monumental pillars, from enigmatic figurines to golden death masks, stands as a testament to the depth and mystery of human history. It invites us to look closer, think deeper, and remain ever curious about the worlds that existed long before our own. And in its silent gaze, we are reminded that for every artifact uncovered, there are countless others still waiting quietly, challenging us to rethink what we know and to wonder what truths have yet to be revealed. Continuing our journey from the sunlit hills of Mycenae and the haunting gaze of the Mask of Agamemnon, we now turn our attention across the Atlantic to the forests and river valleys of what is now New Jersey. Here, among the rich soil and hidden deposits of the Lenape homeland, a small unassuming artifact emerged, an object that would spark debate and curiosity for over a century. The Lenape stone. The Lenape stone is modest in size, roughly 10 centimeters long and 7 centimeters wide, a flat slab of slate with a smooth, weathered surface. Yet its simplicity belies the intrigue it inspires. Etched into the stone is a scene that appears to depict humans, animals, and what some interpret as a prehistoric creature strikingly reminiscent of a woolly mammoth, complete with a long trunk and curved tusks. To the untrained eye, it may seem like a crude illustration, but to those who examine it closely, the precision of the engraving suggests deliberate artistry. Every line is intentional, every form distinct, as if someone sought not merely to depict, but to record. The stone was reportedly unearthed in 1872 near Cliffwood, New Jersey, by workers digging in gravel deposits along a creek. Immediately, it drew attention for the apparent historical implications. If the engraving does indeed represent a woolly mammoth, it would suggest that humans in North America coexisted with these now extinct creatures, an idea that challenges traditional timelines of settlement and extinction. Paleontologists estimate that mammoths disappeared from the eastern United States roughly 10,000 years ago, while mainstream scholarship places widespread human settlement in the region later, raising a puzzle that is yet to be fully resolved. Mainstream explanations suggest several possibilities. Perhaps the image represents a stylized or symbolic creature rather than a literal depiction. Could it have been inspired by oral traditions passed down over generations? Memories of encounters with the giant animals preserved in myth? Or might the scene reflect a misinterpretation by modern observers, reading into the engraving what they hoped to see? A mammoth where the Lenape artist intended something less dramatic, perhaps a bison or a mythical hybrid. Yet, even when approached conservatively, the Lenape stone is compelling. The figures on the slab are unmistakably anthropomorphic and animalistic, suggesting a narrative scene, a story frozen in stone. The central human figures appear to interact with the larger creature, wielding what might be weapons or tools. Could this depict hunting, ritual, or mythological storytelling? The possibility that it captures direct observation of now extinct fauna is tantalizing, if controversial, and continues to fuel fascination. Adding to the intrigue is the broader context of similar artifacts in North America throughout the 19th century. Other engraved stones and carvings were discovered, some bearing depictions of animals presumed extinct or scenes, interpreted as reflecting advanced prehistoric knowledge. The Lenape stone sits at the heart of this conversation. A small, quiet artifact with enormous implications. It raises the question, what did the first peoples of North America know, see, and preserve in their art? And how much of that knowledge has been lost to time? Fringe theories have expanded the conversation even further. Some suggest that the Lenape stone could indicate that humans arrived in North America far earlier than widely accepted, coexisting with megaplone for thousands of years. Others speculate that the engraving represents not just observation, but knowledge of anatomy or hunting practices that has been entirely erased from the record. While such interpretations remain speculative, the stone's ability to provoke these questions underscores its significance. Metallurgical and geological analyses have attempted to date the artifact more precisely. Slate, a relatively stable material, preserves engravings remarkably well. Yet the circumstances of its discovery, disturbed soil and gravel deposits, make precise dating difficult. Was the stone a product of the Lake Plain, or was it carved centuries later reflecting memory rather than direct observation? Each possibility carries profound implications for our understanding of early human activity in the Americas. Even the artistry itself invites reflection. The proportions of the figures, the curvature of the mammoth-like animal, the alignment of human forms in apparent action. These details suggest a mind at work, interpreting the natural world and encoding it in visual form. Could this be a representation of daily life, of hunting, of ritualized interaction with the environment? Or does it carry a symbolic meaning, a story or myth now lost to history that used imagery familiar to its creators, but obscure to us? Ultimately, the Lenape stone challenges the boundaries between observation and imagination. History and legend. It is small, yet it raises enormous questions about human presence, about memory, about the ways early peoples recorded and transmitted knowledge. Could it be a straightforward depiction of extinct fauna, or a symbolic encoding of something more complex? Perhaps a spiritual or cultural narrative we can only glimpse through the lines etched in stone. As we examine the Lenape stone, there is a sense of intimacy and distance all at once. Intimate because the artifact connects us to individual humans who lived, observed, and interpreted the world thousands of years ago. Distant because it sits at the edge of what we can verify, entwined with uncertainties about timelines, extinction, and the passage of millennia. It whispers of a world that existed long before ours, yet touches ours through its quiet persistence. And so the LPI stone, small and unassuming in form, yet vast in the questions it provokes, remains a silent witness to human curiosity, skill, and perhaps memory of a world now gone. It asks us to look closer, to question the assumptions we hold about prehistory, and to wonder what other traces of humanity's earliest encounters with the natural world might still lie hidden, waiting for the careful eye to uncover them, flowing from the forested riverbanks of New Jersey and the small, yet enigmatic Lenape stone. We now journey thousands of miles to the high plains of Bolivia, near the shores of Lake Titicaca, to examine an artifact that continues to intrigue linguists, archaeologists, and explorers alike. The Fuente Magna bowl. At first glance, the bowl is unassuming. A shallow rounded vessel roughly the size of a large soup plate carved from a dark stone with a smooth polished surface. But upon closer inspection, its rim and interior reveal an extraordinary detail. Rows of engraved symbols arranged with careful precision covering both the inside and outside of the vessel. These symbols, a mix of linear patterns and geometric Markings resemble ancient cuneiform script from Mesopotamia. Yet they were found thousands of miles from the cradle of civilization, where such writing first developed. The bowl, therefore, presents a puzzle as much linguistic as archaeological, a whisper of a story that crosses continents and epochs. The discovery of the Fuente Magna bowl dates to the mid-century when it was unearthed near the town of Fuente Magna, not far from the famed Tiwanaku ruins. Local reports suggest that the bowl was found accidentally by a laborer digging near ancient terraces. Its significance was not immediately understood, but scholars quickly recognized the unusual carvings, sparking debates about origin, age, and purpose. The very presence of such inscriptions in the Andes challenged conventional models of pre-Columbian contact and communication. Mainstream interpretations suggest that the bowl may have been created by local cultures, influenced by external ideas, perhaps through trade or migration. The possibility that cuneiform-style symbols appeared in South America long before European contact is tantalizing, yet the evidence remains inconclusive. Critics argue that superficial resemblances to Old World scripts can be coincidental or the result of misinterpretation. The question remains, are we seeing deliberate writing or patterns that our modern minds interpret as familiar symbols? The craftsmanship of the bowl itself is remarkable, carved from granite or diorite, a material notoriously difficult to work without advanced tools. The vessel is unusually smooth, and the engravings display a consistency that suggests careful planning. Could the artisans have possessed technologies or techniques unknown to the surrounding cultures? Or does the bowl represent a fusion of local knowledge and distant inspiration? The questions multiply as one examines the delicate precision of each character, each etched line echoing a purpose that has been obscured by time. Some scholars propose that the bowl served a ceremonial or ritualistic purpose. Its careful engraving, the choice of stone, and the symmetry of its design all suggest an object intended for sacred or symbolic use. Perhaps it held water, grain, or other offerings in religious rites. Others speculate that the inscriptions may have encoded information, genealogies, prayers, or astronomical data. If so, what knowledge was being preserved? And why was it inscribed in symbols so strikingly similar to those from Mesopotamia across the world and centuries earlier? Fringe theories approached with cautious curiosity suggest even more extraordinary possibilities. Could the Fuente Magna bowl represent evidence of pre-Columbian transoceanic contact, a cultural exchange spanning thousands of miles before Columbus? Or might it indicate an unknown or forgotten civilization bridging old and new worlds in ways that defy traditional historical models? While such interpretations remain speculative, they underscore the enduring mystery of the bowl and its inscriptions. The linguistic aspect of the bowl adds another layer of fascination. Scholars trained in cuneiform form have attempted to translate the symbols, but consensus remains elusive. Some signs bear striking resemblance to Sumerian or Proto-Aryan characters, yet others appear unique, suggesting either an adaptation, a hybrid system, or something entirely original. Could this represent an indigenous attempt at a script inspired by distant visitors? Or does it hint at an ancient sophisticated system of writing now lost to history? Even the context of the bowl's discovery contributes to its enigma. Found near the Tiwanaku terraces, an area already associated with monumental architecture, astronomical alignment, and advanced hydraulic engineering, the vessel seems almost at home yet out of place. Was it part of local ritual practices, a gift from afar, or a relic transported through means we cannot yet imagine? Each possibility carries profound implications for how we understand human movement, interaction, and knowledge in antiquity. The Fuente Magna bowl, in its quiet solidity, invites reflection on the persistence of mystery in human history. It asks us to consider questions that stretch beyond geography, chronology, or conventional explanations. Who carved it and why? What stories, beliefs, or knowledge did the inscriptions preserve? And how did such an object come to exist in a landscape so distant from the civilizations with which it appears to share symbolic language? Holding the image of the bowl in mind, one senses the echo of countless hands that shaped it, engraved it, and perhaps revered it. Its markings are a conversation across millennia, a coded message that challenges modern assumptions. We are reminded that history is neither linear nor complete, and that each artifact carries layers of meaning, technical, cultural, and philosophical, that may remain elusive. The Fuente Magna bowl, like the artifacts we have explored before it, from the microscopic mural metal fragments to the haunting mask of Agamemnon and the lentil stone, stands as a testament to human ingenuity, curiosity, and mystery. Its presence urges us to look closer, think deeper, and remain open to the possibility that our understanding of ancient civilizations is far from complete. And as we study its engraved symbols, we are left with a question that lingers in the mind long after the bowl itself has returned to its quiet resting place. What other secrets of human history lie waiting, hidden in plain sight? And what might but yet reveal about the reach of human creativity across time and space? Flowing from the high plains of Bolivia and the enigmatic Fuente Magna bowl, a vessel whose inscriptions hint at distant connections and lost knowledge, we now turn to a fragment of papyrus whose very existence challenges our perception of ancient texts and the worlds they describe. The Thule papyrus, unlike the solid permanence of stone or metal, papyrus is fragile, a delicate material easily lost to time, climate, and human neglect. Yet, it is precisely on this slender, perishable medium that the Thule papyrus is said to record a phenomenon both extraordinary and unsettling, reportedly discovered in the Egyptian National Museum by Alberto Thule. The papyrus is claimed to describe unusual celestial events during the reign of Thutmose III around 1480 BCE. The text or translations thereof allegedly recounts the sighting of fiery discs or circles of fire in the sky, luminous objects that moved in patterns unlike any known natural phenomena. Descriptions suggest a spectacle that captured the attention of Egyptian priests and scribes. The hieroglyphs interpreted from copies indicate that the sky was filled with these glowing objects, brighter than the sun, moving in formations that caused fear and awe. The narrative emphasizes the priests' efforts to interpret these occurrences, to communicate their significance, and to offer ritual responses to calm both the gods and the people. It is a text of observation, ritual and response, an intersection of the natural and the supernatural, documented by those who believed they were witnessing the will of higher powers. Skeptics have questioned both the papyrus's existence and authenticity. No original has been publicly verified, and much of what is known comes from the notes and transcripts of Thule, whose records have been lost. Critics argue that the document may be a modern fabrication, a misinterpretation, or even an exaggeration of ordinary astronomical events. Others suggest that unusual celestial phenomena, comets, meteors, or rare atmospheric events might account for the descriptions without invoking anything extraordinary. Yet even these explanations leave questions unresolved for the descriptions. If accurately conveyed, suggest objects moving with intelligence or intent rather than following natural trajectories. Mainstream Egyptologists tend to regard the text cautiously, noting that Egyptian records frequently use symbolic or mythological language to describe natural events. Could these fiery discs be metaphorical, representing divine will or cosmic importance rather than literal flying objects? Or do they encode something more literally overlooked due to the filtering lens of traditional scholarship? The ambiguity of translation combined with the fragmentary nature of the sources leaves the papyrus suspended between possibility and conjecture. The Thule papyrus also connects with broader questions about ancient observation of the skies. Egypt, like many early civilizations, maintained meticulous records of celestial events. Eclipses, planetary alignments, comets, and unusual atmospheric phenomena were carefully documented. Yet, the Thule papyrus differs in tone and detail. It emphasizes rapid movement, formation changes, and fiery brightness, characteristics that do not match ordinary celestial phenomena. Could this represent an extraordinary natural event now lost to history? Or might it hint at encounters beyond our conventional understanding of ancient observation? Speculative interpretations have attracted attention outside academia. Some suggest that the papyrus describes encounters with unidentified flying objects, presenting evidence of ancient observations of phenomena that defy known physics or technology. Others propose that the text may encode ritual or spiritual experiences misinterpreted by modern readers as physical sightings. These interpretations, while controversial, highlight the enduring fascination of the papyrus. It exists at the boundary of recorded history, observation, and mystery. What makes the Thule papyrus particularly compelling is its intersection of authority and description. Unlike casual reports, this document, if authentic, comes from temple archives from priests, whose role was to chronicle the heavens and interpret them for the kingdom. It is an attempt to preserve knowledge, to make sense of events that disrupted the ordinary, and to integrate them into the cosmology and governance of Egypt. Even if the fiery disks were atmospheric phenomena or celestial anomalies, the care with which they were recorded suggests they were deeply significant, perceived as extraordinary enough to merit meticulous notation. The papyrus also prompts reflection on the fragility of knowledge. How many extraordinary observations have been lost to the decay of papyrus, the upheaval of libraries, or the vagaries of translation? If the Thule papyrus is real, it is one of the rare glimpses into a world view where the sky itself could be a theater of the unknown, where humans observed, interpreted, and recorded what they could not yet fully comprehend. Standing before the idea of the Thule papyrus, we are confronted with both its possibilities and its absences. It is a document at once anchored in history and floating in uncertainty, bridging the gap between conventional scholarship and the enduring human fascination with unexplained phenomena. It asks us to consider the ways ancient peoples interpreted what they observed, the rituals and records they created to understand events beyond their comprehension, and the delicate traces left behind for us to study centuries later. The Thule papyrus, though elusive and fragmentary, continues to challenge assumptions about the past. It invites us to wonder, did the Egyptians witness something extraordinary in the skies, something beyond ordinary astronomy? Or are we projecting modern questions onto symbolic records of divine intervention? And more broadly, what other observations, meticulously recorded and now lost, might have expanded our understanding of human interaction with the natural and possibly the extraordinary world? In its silent, fragile way, the Thule papyrus speaks across millennia. It reminds us that human history is not only a story of material culture and monumental achievement, but also of observation, curiosity, and the attempt to document mysteries that remain unresolved. It asks us to look carefully, to question assumptions, and to remain open to the possibility that the universe and the ways humans have perceived it contains more than we have yet dared to imagine. Flowing from the ethereal skies, described in the Thule papyrus and the extraordinary observations it records, we now descend to a small artifact found in the forests of North America. A single coin whose quiet presence has sparked debate over centuries of human travel and contact. The main penny, also known as the Gdard coin, is diminutive, roughly the size of a modern American nickel, made of silver and stamped with unmistakable Norse markings. Its design, including the characteristic cross and inscriptions, places it firmly in the 11th century, within the era of Viking exploration in the North Atlantic. Yet, the coin was discovered far from the established Norse settlements of Greenland and Newfoundland, deep in the interior of what is now Maine, embedded in the soil of a Native American archaeological site associated with the Maine Native American tribes. It was unearthed in 1957 by archaeologist Guy Green and later studied in detail by experts including Dr. Warren Goddard, who lent his name to the artifact. At first glance, the coin seems incongruous. How could a piece of Norse silver travel so far from the known Viking roots? The surrounding site, primarily composed of indigenous artifacts, showed no other European objects, raising questions about how the coin arrived there. Was it brought directly by Norse travelers, passed through trade networks spanning generations, or somehow introduced in more recent centuries? Each scenario carries profound implications for our understanding of pre-Columbian interaction between the Old World and the New. Mainstream scholarship leans toward the coin being a curiosity transported through trade, likely carried southward from Norse settlements in Newfoundland via networks of Native American exchange. This explanation accounts for its isolated presence while aligning with known historical patterns of material movement. Yet, the lack of corroborating European artifacts in the area leaves the narrative incomplete, raising doubts about the coin's journey and prompting questions about the reach and sophistication of indigenous trade networks. The Maine penny itself is striking in its craftsmanship. Minted in Norway during the reign of King Olaf Kyrre, the silver is carefully struck, the markings crisp despite the centuries of circulation and eventual burial. The coin's survival preserved within the soil mirrors the resilience of other ancient artifacts we have explored. The iron pillar of Delhi, the Nampa figurine, and the Dorchester pot. All objects that resist the decay of time and hint at human ingenuity and connectivity. Its presence invites consideration not only of its physical journey, but also of the cultural and historical contexts that allowed it to reach a place far removed from its origin. Speculative interpretations have expanded the coin's intrigue. Some suggest that the Maine penny is evidence of direct Norse exploration into the northeastern interior of North America, far beyond the coastal settlements of Vinland recorded in sagas. Could Norse voyagers have penetrated river systems and forested landscapes, leaving traces so sparse that a single coin is all that remains? Others propose even more provocative ideas that this artifact hints at lost voyages, forgotten interactions, or unrecorded exchange between disparate cultures. Possibilities that challenge conventional assumptions about pre-Columbian history. Critics, however, urge caution. The coin could have been introduced through much more recent means, perhaps during the 19th or early 20th centuries, when collecting and movement of artifacts were often unregulated. In this scenario, the Maine penny would still be fascinating, but its ability to illuminate ancient networks or Norse exploration would be diminished. Yet, the consensus among many archaeologists is that the coin's discovery context within an otherwise undisturbed indigenous site suggests it was present long before modern interference, leaving the mystery unresolved. The Maine penny also invites reflection on the fluidity of history and the fragility of evidence. A single small object can open windows onto vast interconnected stories that might otherwise remain hidden. It challenges the idea that history follows neat linear paths and encourages us to consider how objects move, change hands, and acquire new significance across cultures and generations. The coin is both literal and symbolic, a tangible connection to human movement, curiosity, and the reach of distant societies. Even the coin's simplicity contributes to its enigmatic power. Unlike monumental stele, elaborately carved figurines or inscribed bowls, it is a humble piece of currency, a tool of commerce transformed into a symbol of mystery by its isolation and context. How often do ordinary objects become extraordinary? Simply because of the paths they travel, the hands they pass through, and the stories that remain unwritten around them? The Maine penny reminds us that history is not only recorded in grand monuments, but also in small, quiet artifacts that bear witness to journeys, encounters, and connections beyond our immediate perception. As we consider the Maine penny, we are invited to imagine its journey. Who held it in their hand before it entered the soil of Maine? Was it traded deliberately, lost accidentally, or transported through channels we can no longer reconstruct? And what does its presence tell us about the movement of peoples, goods, and ideas in a world long before the maps and records we now rely upon? The Goddard coin, modest in size yet monumental in implication, occupies a space between certainty and speculation, between documented history and tantalizing possibility. It is a reminder that every artifact, no matter how small, has the potential to reshape our understanding of the past, to challenge assumptions, and to illuminate the hidden threads of human connection. And as we hold the image of this silver coin in our minds, we are left with a quite compelling question. What other traces of ancient journeys, encounters, and discoveries remain buried beneath the soil, waiting to reveal their stories to those patient enough to look? Flowing from the intricate inscriptions of the copper scroll, a testament to human ingenuity and the desire to preserve knowledge, the journey of our exploration now returns to the cradle of civilization itself, Sumer, where the earliest urban societies first rose along the fertile banks of the Tigris and Euphrates. Here in the heart of Mesopotamia, we encounter artifacts whose elegance and complexity continue to captivate scholars and collectors alike. The Sumerian cylinder seals. At first glance, these seals appear deceptively simple. Small cylinders carved from stone ranging from a few centimeters to several inches in length. Yet every surface, every line tells a story. When rolled across soft clay, these seals produce intricate impressions depicting gods, humans, animals, and scenes of ritual or daily life. The imagery is precise, almost photographic in its clarity. A miniature world captured on a cylinder, no larger than a finger. Some depict what appear to be mythological narratives, others scenes of governance, trade, or religious ceremony. Their craftsmanship reveals a sophistication that belies their scale and the diversity of materials. Lapis lazuli, hematite. Carnarvon speaks to extensive trade networks and skilled artisanship. The discovery of cylinder seals dates back to the late 19th and early 20th centuries as archaeologists unearthed the ruins of Sumerian cities such as Ur, Uruk, and Lagos. They were often found in tombs, administrative archives, or private dwellings, sometimes buried with their owners as markers of status and identity. Each seal functioned as a personal signature, an authentication tool, and a record of authority, a concept both practical and profoundly symbolic. Yet, even with this clear function, these objects evoke deep mysteries, for the imagery often transcends the mundane, depicting scenes that remain difficult to interpret fully. Mainstream scholarship interprets the seals primarily as tools of administration, a way to authenticate documents, mark property, and establish social hierarchies. The meticulous detail allowed individuals to convey authority, identity, and intent in a world where literacy was limited. Yet, when examining the scenes closely, questions arise. Some seals depict figures in enigmatic postures, creatures that do not appear to correspond to known animals or technologies that seem advanced for their time. Could these images be purely symbolic mythological representations? Or do they hint at aspects of Sumerian life and knowledge that we have yet to understand? The seals also reveal extraordinary technical skill, engraving a hard stone cylinder with such precision to produce a coherent and continuous image when rolled on clay demands not only artistic talent, but also a deep understanding of geometry, proportion, and perspective. Could the level of sophistication seen in these objects suggest a more advanced understanding of design and engineering than is commonly attributed to early urban societies? And how did these techniques develop in a period so distant from modern tools, yet with results so consistent and enduring? Some seals have sparked even more provocative speculation. A few depict what appear to be vehicles, objects, or instruments, whose functions are not immediately clear. Certain scenes feature elongated shapes or devices that to the modern eye might resemble wheeled chariots, flying machines, or mechanical contraptions. While mainstream scholars caution against reading contemporary technology into ancient art, these depictions continue to fuel debate. Were they symbolic representations of mythological conveyances, or do they preserve glimpses of lost technologies or knowledge? The symbolism of the seals further deepens their allure. Many carry depictions of gods, hybrid creatures, or celestial events, suggesting that Sumerian culture placed a profound emphasis on the interplay between the human and divine, the earthly and cosmic. Could these seals, small and personal though they were, encode cosmological knowledge, ritual significance, or even esoteric teachings accessible only to the elite? Their portability implies that knowledge could travel, that authority could be conveyed across distances, and that art and administration were intertwined in ways we are only beginning to understand. Moreover, the seals highlight the remarkable interconnectedness of early civilizations. Trade networks spanning Mesopotamia, Anatolia, and the Indus Valley are reflected in the choice of materials and stylistic influences seen in these objects. Could the symbols etched into these cylinders contain layers of meaning that reached far beyond Sumer itself, encoding a language of power, religion, or knowledge shared among distant peoples? If so, what might this suggest about the diffusion of ideas, technology, and spiritual concepts in the ancient world? Even today, each cylinder seal presents a puzzle. Scholars must piece together meaning from fragments, cross-reference images with textual records, and consider the cultural and historical context of each carving. The interpretation is as much art as science, requiring imagination tempered by rigor. And yet, despite decades of study, many impressions remain elusive in their full significance, hinting at rituals, beliefs, or knowledge that have been lost to time. Standing before the impression of a cylinder seal, one is struck by the intimacy and immediacy it conveys. It is a direct line from the hands of an artisan, from the mind of an individual in a city thousands of years old, to our own perception. Small yet infinitely rich, the seals invite reflection on the complexity of early civilization, the ingenuity of human design, and the enduring mysteries that these ancient objects preserve. The Sumerian cylinder seals like the copper scroll, the main penny, and the Fuente Magna bowl remind us that history is layered with questions, with traces that challenge assumptions and illuminate possibilities. They speak of art and administration, mythology and authority, and perhaps even secrets that remain hidden in plain sight. And as we study these tiny engraved cylinders rolling their stories across the clay of time, we are left with a quiet, compelling question. What other knowledge, lost or concealed, might these ancient hands have recorded, waiting for us to rediscover? And how much of the past still eludes our understanding? Flowing from the delicate intricacy of the Sumerian cylinder seals, objects that compress narratives, authority, and symbolism into a form no larger than a finger, we now journey across continents and centuries to the dense, humid lands of Mesoamerica, where the enigmatic Olm civilization once thrived. Here, amidst the riverine landscapes of modern-day Veracruz and Tabasco in Mexico, We encounter olm altars, monumental stone structures whose scale and symbolism continue to intrigue archaeologists and historians alike. The mechanical altars are imposing, yet simultaneously enigmatic. Carved from massive blocks of basalt, some weighing tens of tons, these altars are often rectangular or throne-like. Their surface is smooth yet interspersed with intricate reliefs depicting figures, symbols, and occasionally what appear to be mythological or supernatural scenes. One immediately notices the precision of the carvings. Kneeling or seated figures, stylized depictions of rulers or deities, and motifs that suggest movement, ritual, and perhaps the passage between earthly and spiritual realms. In some cases, the altars seem to double as thrones or ceremonial platforms, blending function with symbolism in ways that remain difficult to interpret fully. The discovery of these altars dates to the early 20th century as explorers and archaeologists excavated centers such as Lavenna, San Lorenzo, and Tresipotes. Unlike many artifacts, these altars were not buried in the earth or hidden in tombs. They were monumental, public, and designed to be seen. Yet their meanings are deeply opaque. Scholars have long debated whether they served primarily as ritual altars, political symbols, tomb markers, or a combination of these purposes. Each relief, each carefully carved line, seems to carry intentionality. Yet, the culture that produced them left no written records to fully illuminate their use. Mainstream interpretations suggest that the altars were closely tied to the ritual and political life of the Olm. They may have represented rulers in the guise of deities, commemorated significant events, or served as focal points for religious ceremonies. The recurring presence of figures in kneeling or submissive postures has been interpreted as evidence of ritualized power, offerings, or ceremonial surrender. Yet, questions remain. Some altars depict figures with unusual features, elongated heads, jaguar-like characteristics, or other hybrid forms that challenge conventional explanations. Are these simply symbolic representations of divine ancestry? Or do they hint at a worldview or mythology we have yet to fully grasp? The technical mastery of the altars adds another layer to the mystery. The basalt used for many of these monuments was quarried from sites often located miles away, requiring immense effort to transport, shape, and position the stones. How the Olm managed this feat with the tools available to them remains a subject of fascination. The precision of the carvings, their alignment within ceremonial plazas, and their integration with surrounding structures all point to a society with sophisticated engineering, artistic vision, and ceremonial planning. Could this level of organization indicate a centralized authority capable of coordinating labor on a massive scale? Or might it reflect a broader shared cultural knowledge about construction and ritual? Speculative interpretations extend even further. Some researchers suggest that the altar's recurring motifs of jaguar-human hybrids, celestial symbols, and complex iconography could reflect shamanic practices, astronomical knowledge, or contact with lost technologies or civilizations. Others propose that the altars encode myths or cosmological stories now inaccessible to us. Their carvings serve as visual scriptures for a culture without written language. While these ideas remain controversial, the very existence of such detailed, deliberate artistry invites questions about the intellectual and spiritual life of themes whose civilization predates many other advanced societies in the Americas. One particularly compelling aspect of the altars is their connection to colossal heads, another iconic feature of Memic culture. The juxtaposition of massive heads and throne-like altars within ceremonial centers suggests a narrative of power, ancestry, and ritual that is only partially visible. Were the altars intended as seats for rulers embodying divine authority? Did they serve as stages for ritual performances or as memorials commemorating mythic or historical events? Each interpretation offers insight, yet none fully resolves the enigma of these monuments. The altars also challenge our assumptions about early civilization. Unlike portable artifacts or inscriptions, they are immovable, designed to interact with the landscape, the sky, and the human body. Their scale implies not just utility, but intentional dominance over space and perception, a deliberate shaping of experience that communicates both authority and mystery. Could the altars themselves be considered a form of language, a visual codex whose meaning we are only beginning to decode? As we contemplate the Olm altars, we are reminded that human creativity and ritual practice can produce works that transcend time. They connect us to a society whose worldview, beliefs, and intentions remain partly veiled, preserved only in stone. Standing before them, or even imagining their presence in ceremonial plazas, one feels the weight of history and the persistence of human curiosity. The desire to understand, interpret, and preserve meaning across generations. The Olm altars, like the Sumerian cylinder seals, the copper scroll, and the main penny, straddle the line between tangible artifact and enduring mystery. They testify to human ingenuity, the drive to communicate across centuries, and the layers of meaning that can survive even without written records. And as we study their carvings, trace the figures etched in basalt, and imagine the rituals that unfolded around them, we are left with a quiet, compelling question. What stories, knowledge, and beliefs of themes remain hidden, etched into stone, yet still beyond our full understanding, waiting for patience, insight, and imagination to uncover? Flowing from the monumental altars of the Olm, carved from basalt, and imbued with ritual and authority, we now shift our gaze northward to the rugged plains of New Mexico, where an enigmatic inscription has puzzled scholars, explorers, and linguists for decades. The lost Lunas Decalogue stone, nestled at the base of a hidden mountain, partially obscured by soil and vegetation. The stone is striking not for its size, roughly the dimensions of a large wall panel, but for the deep, carefully incised characters etched across its surface. The text appears to be a version of the Ten Commandments written in ancient Hebrew script and is rendered with remarkable clarity, as if the artisan intended it to endure for millennia. Its smooth, dark surface bears the subtle traces of weathering, suggesting considerable age, yet the origin, timing, and purpose of the engraving remain deeply uncertain. The discovery of the stone is shrouded in mystery. Local accounts suggest it was first noted in the 1930s, though some anecdotal reports claim sightings as early as the late 19th century. Scholars, amateurs, and explorers have debated its authenticity ever since. Unlike other inscriptions or petroglyphs common to the region, this text is linguistically distinct, employing characters and orthography consistent with Paleo-Hebrew, a script used in the Near East more than 2 millennia ago. This raises immediate profound questions. How could a Semitic inscription appear in the American Southwest centuries before documented transoceanic contact? Mainstream explanations tend to view the loss of Lunastone cautiously. By someone familiar with ancient scripts, others propose it is a misinterpretation of naturally occurring scratches or local inscriptions, perhaps conflated with Hebrew characters by eager observers. Yet proponents of the stone's authenticity point to the unusual orthography and precision of the characters, which would be difficult to replicate without substantial knowledge of ancient scripts, or religious circles at the time of its discovery. The text itself is captivating in its composition. Each line is meticulously aligned with the depth of the carving, suggesting both intention and skill. The commandment sequence is recognizable to scholars familiar with biblical texts, yet subtle differences in phrasing and character, a direct encounter between ancient peoples, a lost voyage across the Atlantic, or the transmission of ideas through unknown networks. Or are we witnessing an artifact of local imagination shaped by fascination with biblical history? Speculative interpretations abound, each more provocative than the last. Some propose that the stone is evidence of pre-Columbian Semitic exploration of the Americas, suggesting that travelers from the Old World crossed the ocean long before Columbus or the Vikings. Others hypothesize that the inscription might have been carved by later European settlers or religious enthusiasts attempting to leave their mark in an isolated landscape. Yet none of these explanations fully account for the craftsmanship, weathering, and location, leaving the stone suspended between authenticity and skepticism. The context of the Lost Luna stone further deepens its intrigue. Hidden Mountain and its surrounding terrain are largely remote, making casual access difficult, especially prior to the 20th century. How would a hypothetical visitor, ancient or modern, have transported tools, knowledge, and intention to such a site? Was the location chosen for ritual significance, for concealment, or simply as a prominent natural canvas? Its placement against the natural backdrop suggests deliberation, a desire to merge text with landscape in a way that is both monumental and elusive. Even the stone's weathering is a clue that resists easy explanation. Erosion patterns, lichen growth, and other natural processes suggest considerable age. Yet, the absence of comprehensive archaeological context complicates any attempt at precise dating. Could it be centuries old or merely decades? And how does the passage of time intersect with human perception, memory, and myth-making, allowing a single artifact to accrue layers of mystery that no definitive method can entirely resolve? The loss. Lund Decalogue stone resonates beyond its physical presence because it embodies a broader human impulse, the desire to record moral, spiritual, or historical knowledge in a permanent form. Like the Mech altars, the Samrian cylinder seals, or the Copper Scroll, it represents a bridging of human intellect, craftsmanship, and enduring curiosity. It challenges assumptions about where knowledge can travel, who can create it, and how meaning can persist in the absence of context. Standing before the stone in imagination, one senses the hands that carved it, the minds that conceived it, and the landscapes through which those individuals must have passed. It is a relic that demands contemplation, inviting observers to consider timelines, migrations, and the transmission of culture in ways both plausible and extraordinary. And while skepticism is necessary, so too is wonder, an acknowledgement that some artifacts resist tidy categorization, hovering between history, myth, and enduring questions. The Lost Lunas Decalogue stone, quietly etched into the sandstone of Hidden Mountains, reminds us that human curiosity and ingenuity are boundless, and that artifacts can speak across centuries in whispers as compelling as the loudest monuments. It stands as a testament to the mysteries of human movement, cultural exchange, and the persistence of ideas, some recorded, some lost, all waiting to be interpreted. And as we trace the engraved lines with our eyes and imagination, we are left with a lingering, compelling question. Who carved this text? Why? And what other secrets of the ancient world might lie hidden in plain sight, waiting for patient discovery? Nestled in the heart of New Hampshire, Lake Winnipegosis stretches across more than 70 square miles, its waters shimmering with an almost otherworldly serenity under the afternoon sun. The lake is framed by rolling hills, dense forests, and quiet towns, each holding fragments of history long whispered among locals, but largely unknown beyond the region. For most, the lake is a place of summer retreats and boating excursions, a calm and familiar landscape. Yet, beneath its placid surface and along its rocky shorelines, a mystery has quietly persisted for over a century. A mystery encapsulated in a single unassuming artifact, the Lake Winnipegacy Mystery Stone. The stone itself is modest in appearance, roughly the size of a fist. its surface worn smooth by time and weather. Its muted gray surface is marred with deep grooves and etched markings that at first glance appear almost deliberate. But deliberate by whom or by what is a question that has haunted both historians and amateur investigators. Discovered in the early 1870s by workers dredging the lake for construction materials, the stone was quickly set aside, catalogued among local curiosities, yet never fully explained. Examined closely, the engravings reveal an intriguing complexity. Some patterns resemble spirals, others geometric shapes reminiscent of rudimentary maps or symbols. A series of parallel lines cut across one side, intersecting at precise angles, as though someone or something had taken meticulous care to mark the stone dot in an era before industrial tools were commonplace in the region. The precision of these markings has fueled speculation ever since. Were they the handiwork of a prehistoric people whose presence in New England is only partially understood? Or could they represent something far more enigmatic, lost to time and memory? Mainstream archaeology has suggested that the stone might be a form of Native American artifact, possibly a ceremonial object or accounting tool. The Abenaki people, who inhabited the region for centuries, crafted objects from stone and bone, often embedding symbolic meaning into their work. Certain features on the Winnipegacy stone bear resemblance to known patterns in indigenous carvings. Yet, experts caution against drawing definitive conclusions. Unlike other artifacts, whose origins can be traced through context, this stone was removed from its natural environment before a careful excavation could take place. Its provenance is, in many ways, lost, a fragment of history whose story is frustratingly incomplete. Yet the stone's mystery deepens when one considers the geological context. Winnipegacy is a glacial lake formed thousands of years ago as ice sheets retreated and carved out the valley. Many geologists have noted that while the stone itself is composed of a local granite, some of its markings bear no natural explanation. The grooves are too regular, the angles too precise to have been the product of glacial movement or erosion alone. Could it be, then, that this object represents an intersection of natural processes and human or non-human intervention? Stories surrounding the stone grew in the decades following its discovery. Local newspapers from the late 19th century mentioned visitors coming from Boston and even New York to glimpse the enigmatic object. Some accounts describe a strange sensation, a heaviness in the air when the stone was held, as though it carried a presence beyond its physical form. While such anecdotes are anecdotal and lack scientific rigor, they have become part of the lore, a subtle reminder that artifacts often carry more than just physical evidence. They carry the weight of human imagination and the mysteries we project onto them. In more recent years, the Lake Winnipegacy Mystery Stone has attracted the attention of independent researchers and fringe historians. Some propose that the engravings could be a form of ancient geography, perhaps a map of the lake itself, or a broader network of waterways known to pre-Columbian travelers. Others suggest more speculative ideas. Could it be a relic of a forgotten culture? One that existed in the region long before the arrival of documented Native American tribes? Or more provocatively, might it bear witness to an even older, almost inconceivable chapter of human or pre-human history? Photographs of the stone circulated online have only intensified curiosity. The patterns, when enhanced and magnified, seem to form a rhythm, a kind of visual language that teases comprehension but defies translation. Some enthusiasts have attempted to align the grooves with astronomical markers or lunar cycles, noting that certain lines seem to correspond with solstices or the position of the sun at specific times of the year. Whether these alignments are intentional or coincidental remains an open question. Yet they invite the imagination to wander across centuries, to envision hands carving symbols in rhythm with the cosmos. Scientific analyses have offered few answers. Modern techniques, including 3D scanning and microscopic examination, confirm that the markings are not recent. They predate the 19th century by an undetermined span. The wear on the stone is consistent with long-term exposure to water and wind. Yet the precision of the engravings resists a simple explanation. Unlike fossils or pottery shards that can be carbon dated or stratigraphically traced, the Winnipegacy stone exists in a temporal limbo, a singular object whose context has been disrupted, leaving only questions. What makes the stone particularly compelling is the absence of corroborating artifacts. Unlike other sites where collections of tools, pottery, and remains allow archaeologists to reconstruct daily life, the Winnipegacy stone stands alone. It is as if someone or something left a single message, a solitary signature in stone, and then vanished. The human mind, wired for patterns and meaning, cannot help but wonder what story was meant to be told. Was this an offering, a warning, a record, or something else entirely? Even today, divers exploring the lake occasionally report finding fragments of stone with similar markings, though none match the detail or clarity of the original discovery. Some speculate that the lake itself might conceal a hidden cache of artifacts buried under centuries of silt and sediment waiting to be uncovered. Could the Winnipegacy stone be the first clue? A solitary witness to a broader unseen history lying beneath the surface? For those who study it, the stone's allure lies not in answers, but in questions. It challenges conventional timelines, nudges at the edges of accepted history, and quietly asserts that human or perhaps non-human creativity is older and stranger than we often allow ourselves to imagine. Unexplained. As the sun sets over Lake Winnipegacy, its markings are still visible, etched deeply into granite, yet their meaning remains elusive. Once embedded in this unassuming piece of stone, now scattered across history like echoes, the Lake Winnipegacy Mystery Stone endures as a silent enigma, a fragment of a past that resists full comprehension. And perhaps that is its truest fascination. Not that it can be explained, but that it invites us to pause, to look closer, and the land itself. High on the slopes of Midberg Hill, near the town of Nebra in the German state of Saxony-Anhalt, the landscape rises in gentle undulations, dotted with fields and the remnants of ancient earthworks. On a clear day, the horizon stretches endlessly, and the sky above seems impossibly vast. A canvas of shifting light and shadow. It is here in 1999 that a discovery would capture the attention of historians, astronomers, and archaeologists alike. This is the Nebra sky disk, an artifact whose origin and purpose continue to spark fascination and debate. At first glance, the disk is deceptively simple. Its bronze surface has oxidized to a rich green, pitted with the marks of time. Across this verdant field, thin sheets of gold form a sun, a crescent moon, and a series of stars arranged in a pattern that has been identified as the Pleiades cluster. Two golden arcs curve along the edges of the disk. Their exact purpose is still a matter of scholarly debate. Despite its modest size, the disk radiates an aura of significance, as though it holds a story written not in words, but in celestial geometry. Mainstream archaeology states the disk in the European Bronze Age around 1600 BCE, a period of emerging complexity and trade networks across Central Europe. Excavations suggest that the disk may have been part of a ritual hoard, deliberately buried with other valuable objects, such as swords, axes, and bracelets. Many experts interpret the celestial motifs as evidence of sophisticated astronomical knowledge. The disk may have served as an early tool for marking solstices, guiding agricultural cycles, or even aligning sacred sites. In this context, the Nebra sky disk becomes a testament to human ingenuity, a tangible link to a people who looked to the heavens for guidance. Yet, the disk resists easy explanation. While we can place it in time and space, we cannot fully understand its intent. Why this particular arrangement of stars? Why the striking arcs along the rim whose purpose remains uncertain? And why bury it in secrecy atop a hill rather than in a settlement or burial site where its meaning might have been more directly shared? These unanswered questions invite speculation, a gentle pulling at the threads of history that refuse to yield a simple narrative. The circumstances of its discovery add another layer of intrigue. The disk was unearthed illegally by treasure hunters, removed from its context, and later recovered by authorities. This means much of its surrounding archaeological environment, soil layers, associated artifacts, and other subtle clues were lost before proper study could begin. Some have argued that without these details, our understanding of the disk's function will remain incomplete, forever obscured by the fog of circumstance. Others suggest that perhaps this was intentional. The disk, after all, may have been meant to be hidden, a secret of the sky safeguarded by its creators. Scholars have noted that the Nebra sky disk represents a convergence of art, science, and ritual. The Pleiades cluster, for instance, has been recognized across cultures as a marker of seasonal change. In Bronze Age Europe, tracking the movement of these stars could have practical applications in agriculture, signaling the best times for planting and harvesting. Yet, the disk's precision suggests more than mere utility. The arcs along its edge, some argue, could correspond to the angle of the solstices, effectively turning the disk into a celestial calendar. But such interpretations remain speculative. Can we be certain that this was the intention of its creators? Or are we reading our own knowledge and obsessions into a symbol that was once fully understood only by those who held it? The disk's mysteries have also invited more unconventional theories. Some researchers have proposed that the artifact is a remnant of an advanced prehistoric astronomical tradition, hinting at knowledge far beyond what we typically attribute to Bronze Age societies. Others have suggested connections to ritual or cosmology that transcend practical applications. Perhaps it was a tool of initiation, a sacred object used by a priestly elite to mediate between the human and celestial realms. While these ideas venture into speculation, they highlight the disk's capacity to inspire wonder and curiosity, reminding us that history is not always neatly categorized or fully understood. Scientific analyses have confirmed the disk's authenticity and age. Metallurgical studies show that the bronze and gold were sourced from multiple regions, implying that the disk's creators had access to wide-ranging trade networks or exchanges of knowledge. The arrangement of celestial symbols, when modeled digitally, aligns with phenomena such as lunar and solar cycles, reinforcing the notion that this was a deliberate, thoughtful creation. And yet, even with these insights, we remain unable to reconstruct the worldview that gave rise to it. What did the sky mean to these people? How did they interpret the stars' movements? And why was it important enough to capture in gold and bronze? The Nebra sky disk continues to captivate because it embodies both knowledge and mystery. Holding it in the imagination, we are transported to a time when humans were acutely aware of the sky above them, when nightfall was not merely darkness, but a theater of celestial events that demanded observation and interpretation. And yet, as much as the disk illuminates, it also obscures. It offers tantalizing glimpses of an advanced understanding of the cosmos, yet it leaves unanswered the most fundamental questions. Who made it? For whom? And why? Its story intersects with broader mysteries of Bronze Age Europe, enigmatic hill forts, megalithic structures, and ritual hordes scattered across the continent. Each artifact provides a fragment of context, but none resolves the ultimate enigma. And in the absence of complete records, The Nebra sky disk stands as a solitary messenger from the past. Its golden symbols are silent yet compelling, asking, used to look up at the night sky and wonder what our ancestors saw, understood, and revered. Today, the disk resides in the State Museum of Prehistory in Halle, Germany, preserved under controlled conditions, shielded from light and humidity. Visitors marvel at its delicate craftsmanship, its intricate patterns, and its aura of mystery. Yet, even in this secure setting, the disk's essence remains elusive. Its power lies not merely in the material object, but in the questions it provokes. The questions that cannot be answered definitively, only contemplated. As twilight falls over the Midberg Hill, one can almost imagine the disk resting in its original hiding place. Golden symbols catching the last rays of the sun, reflecting the movement of celestial bodies that have guided humans for millennia. It is a reminder that some discoveries are as much about the questions they raise as the answers they provide. The Nebra sky disk endures, suspended between science and speculation, history and mystery. And perhaps that is why it continues to captivate. It is not merely an artifact, but a bridge across time, inviting us to look upward, to wonder, and to acknowledge that some of the past remains tantalizingly beyond our grasp as we shift our gaze from the celestial mysteries of the Nebraska sky disk, from a time when ancient peoples measured the heavens and encoded their knowledge in bronze. We now turn to the seas, vast, uncharted, and brimming with secrets. The object at the center of this maritime enigma is not carved from stone or molded from metal, but drawn by hand on delicate parchment. The Piri Reis map, a fragmentary chart, no larger than a modern notebook. It nonetheless radiates an uncanny sense of precision and foresight, bridging the known world of the early 16th century with questions that echo across centuries. The map first came to modern attention in 1929 when it was discovered in the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, tucked away among Ottoman archival treasures. Its creator, Piri Reis, was a Turkish admiral and choreographer renowned for his skill in navigation and knowledge of the Mediterranean. But the map is unusual in ways that have sparked fascination and debate. It depicts the western coasts of Europe and North Africa with remarkable accuracy for its time. But more strikingly, it also shows the coast of South America and what some scholars suggest may even be Antarctica, rendered in astonishing detail centuries before the continent's official discovery. The map itself is fragmentary. Only about 1/3 survives, yet what remains captures the imagination. Coastlines curve with unexpected precision. Rivers and mountain ranges are indicated, and islands are carefully labeled. Notes written in Ottoman Turkish, alongside the drawing reference the sources used at Piri. Reis mentions earlier maps, including some that he claims were more than a century old. Some of these sources were European, some Portuguese, some perhaps drawn from lost or forgotten charts. The map is by all accounts a synthesis of maritime knowledge. Yet it also hints at a level of sophistication that seems almost impossible for the era. Mainstream historians emphasize that the map reflects the accumulation of exploration, knowledge up to 1513. Piri Reis himself noted that he compiled it from a collection of about 20 charts, including maps from Christopher Columbus. From this perspective, the map is a remarkable achievement of careful scholarship, navigation, and artistic skill, a testament to the maritime ingenuity of the early modern period. In this light, the map is less an enigma and more a window into the process by which humans began to understand the oceans and the continents that border them. And yet, the map does not yield all its secrets so easily. The depiction of what appears to be the southernmost continent has sparked some of the most provocative questions. Certain features, mountainous coastlines and ice-free shorelines, do not correspond neatly with what we know of Antarctica today. Some researchers have argued that these parts of the map reflect ancient knowledge, possibly derived from sources lost to time that predate the ice sheet that now covers the continent. Could this be the record of a world no longer visible, glimpsed by explorers or chroniclers whose names have been erased by history? Or is it a coincidence, an approximation by a photographer piecing together disparate reports? The map also exhibits an intriguing combination of artistry and scientific observation. Latitude and longitude are indicated, though imperfectly, and there is an evident attempt to translate complex three-dimensional coastlines into a two-dimensional plane. For a time when accurate longitudinal measurement was notoriously difficult, these efforts are extraordinary. The lines on the map, drawn with fine, deliberate strokes, suggest that the hand guiding the pen was both knowledgeable and methodical. It is tempting to imagine peer race poring over manuscripts and charts, translating knowledge into a form that could be understood by sailors navigating uncharted waters. Yet some of what he drew seems almost beyond conventional explanation. More speculative interpretations have arisen, precisely because of these anomalies. Some have suggested that the map preserves traces of a pre-ordering global understanding, a knowledge network that spanned centuries and continents before the era of documented European exploration. Others posit that the map incorporates information from ancient civilizations, possibly transmitted through lost sources, now known only to legend. Such ideas remain highly debated and controversial among historians. Yet they underscore the way the map continues to provoke wonder. The Piri Reis map exists at the intersection of empirical knowledge and the unknown, where careful documentation meets the tantalizing suggestion of what might lie beyond the accepted historical record. The map's historical context further deepens its intrigue. Piri Reis was not merely a choreographer. He was an admiral and explorer navigating the complex political and maritime landscapes of the Ottoman Empire at its height. His maps were tools of both practical navigation and imperial strategy used to plan voyages, understand coastlines, and anticipate the movements of rivals. Yet, even in such pragmatic circumstances, the inclusion of coastlines that would not be officially documented for centuries raises questions. How did this knowledge survive and travel across time and space? Were there lost voyages, earlier explorations now erased from conventional history, whose traces appear only in maps like this one? Scientific studies of the map have added layers of both clarity and mystery. Analysis of the parchment and ink confirms its early 16th century origin. Comparisons with modern geography and satellite imagery reveal the surprising accuracy of many depicted features, from the bulges of the Brazilian coast to the placement of islands in the Caribbean. Yet discrepancies remain, especially in the southern reaches of the map. Attempts to reconcile these with known coastlines often require stretching or distorting modern geography, which only intensifies the questions. Are these errors merely the result of human miscalculation? Or do they hint at sources whose origins are unknown and whose precision cannot be easily explained? The Piri Reis map also captivates because it is a reminder of the fragility of human knowledge. It is a fragment, a single surviving piece from a larger mosaic of exploration and mapping, much of which has been lost. Entire libraries, charts, and records from antiquity and the early modern period have vanished through war, fire, or neglect. What survives is tantalizingly incomplete, and yet it challenges us to imagine the world through the eyes of those who sought to understand it long before modern technology. The map invites us to consider the limits of human discovery. What was known, what was recorded, and what remains hidden beneath oceans, ice, or the sands of time. Holding a copy of the map in one's hands, even today, is a humbling experience. One can trace the curves of the continents, follow the lines of latitude, and contemplate the efforts of a 16th century navigator, attempting to make sense of an immense and unpredictable world. The map is both a tool and a symbol, a bridge between exploration and imagination, between empirical observation and the mysteries that persist beyond our grasp. Its survival is remarkable, and its anomalies continue to fuel debate and curiosity alike. As the sun sets over distant oceans and coastlines, it is worth pausing to reflect on what the Peary race map represents. It is a document, a work of art, a practical guide, and yet also a puzzle whose full meaning remains elusive. It reminds us that history is not always linear, that knowledge is often scattered and fragmentary, and that even the most meticulous record-keeping cannot capture the entirety of human discovery. In its delicate lines and golden hues, the map whispers questions that resist final answers. Where did this knowledge originate? How much of the world was understood long before our historical texts tell us it was? And what other secrets might lie hidden, waiting to be rediscovered in the maps, artifacts, and chronicles of the past? The Peary race map endures as a silent testament to human curiosity, skill, and the persistent allure of the unknown. It beckons us to look beyond the horizons of recorded history, to imagine voyages and discoveries that may never be fully documented, and to acknowledge that some mysteries are meant not to be solved, but to inspire wonder. Like the stars of the Nebra sky disk or the enigmatic grooves of the lake Winnipegacy stone. It challenges us to think beyond the limits of conventional understanding, inviting us to consider what has been lost, what remains, and what might still be hidden beneath the surface of time. Beneath the gentle waves of the Asian Sea, along a rocky stretch near the island of Antider, the remnants of a long-forgotten world lay scattered, concealed by centuries of salt, sediment, and silence. In the early 20th century, sponge divers accustomed to the unyielding Mediterranean depths stumbled upon a shipwreck. Its wooden timbers long since eroded, its cargo fragmented and unrecognizable. Among the broken emporium and corroded statues, something far more enigmatic emerged. A small bronze device no larger than a shoebox, whose intricate gears and dials seemed almost impossibly advanced for its age. This was the Antithera mechanism, an object that continues to challenge our understanding of human ingenuity. At first glance, it resembles little more than a collection of interlocking wheels and bronze plates corroded by the sea's slow assault. Yet the closer scholars examined it, the more it revealed itself as a puzzle of extraordinary sophistication. Every gear, carefully arranged, suggested purpose and precision. Even in its fragmented state, researchers could discern its function. A mechanical calculator capable of predicting the movements of the sun, the moon, and even eclipses centuries before such devices were thought possible. In essence, it was an analog computer created over 2,000 years ago. How could a civilization so ancient conceive of such a mechanism? What knowledge and what artisanship must have been lost to time? The Antivithera mechanism's origins are traced to the Hellenistic period, roughly the 2nd century BCE, a time when Greek thought was at the zenith of its mathematical, astronomical, and philosophical exploration. Scholars have meticulously analyzed inscriptions etched onto its corroded surfaces, translating the faint Greek letters into instructions and explanations. Through these texts, we glimpse a society deeply attuned to the cosmos, a culture that measured time not only in days and months, but in cycles, predicting the intricate ballet of planets and stars with uncanny accuracy. Yet, there is a tension between the known and the unknown. While mainstream historians suggest the device was a product of genetic ingenuity, potentially influenced by the work of figures like Hipparchus or Archimedes, its complexity far exceeds any other known technology from the era. The gears themselves, each meticulously cut and arranged, anticipate innovations that would not reappear in Europe until the medieval clockwork of the 14th century. How was such precise engineering achieved in an age devoid of industrial tools. And if such knowledge existed, why does it seem to vanish almost entirely from the historical record? X-ray imaging and 3D reconstructions have allowed researchers to peer into its hidden chambers, revealing layers of complexity that initially seemed unimaginable. One gear in particular, known as the Sorrow Dial, aligns with the cycles of eclipses, both solar and lunar, repeating every 18 years. Another tracks the maternal cycle, a 19-year period after which lunar and solar calendars realign. These calculations are not merely abstract. They imply a civilization capable of conceptualizing time in cyclical patterns, of translating celestial movements into mechanical form. To hold the mechanism, even as a fragment, is to touch the intersection of science, philosophy, and art. And yet, for all the certainty of its mathematics, the mechanism harbors mysteries that have no definitive answer. Some suggest that it could calculate the positions of planets beyond the moon and sun, hinting at knowledge of the solar system that should have been impossible. Others have noted inscriptions that remain partially illegible, tantalizing fragments of text that may reference events or concepts we cannot fully reconstruct. Could the Anti-Athra mechanism represent an isolated pinnacle of technological achievement, a brief flare of brilliance lost in the sweep of history? Or might it hint at a deeper continuum of knowledge, one that civilizations before and after the Greeks tapped into, but that was ultimately suppressed or forgotten? Speculative theories, of course, abound. Some historians and enthusiasts wonder if it might suggest contact with advanced, perhaps unknown cultures, whose understanding of astronomy and mechanics far surpassed what we typically credit to the ancient world. Others propose that it was part of a broader network of knowledge, scattered and hidden, designed for elite astronomers or philosophical schools. While such ideas remain unproven, the sheer sophistication of the mechanism invites questions that transcend conventional explanation. Could the Greeks have had access to techniques or ideas now lost forever? Could there have been a continuous line of technological mastery, whose traces only flicker briefly in the historical record? What is equally haunting is what we cannot know. The human story behind the device. Who conceived it? Who crafted its gears with such painstaking precision? And for what purpose? Was it a tool for teaching, for astrology, for the calendar, or for some other function we cannot even imagine? Each turn of its corroded wheels might have once marked the rhythm of human thought, the heartbeat of curiosity and understanding. And yet those hands, the minds behind the mechanism, are gone, leaving only the artifact itself, a mute witness to centuries of mystery. The antique mechanism also invites reflection on the fragility of knowledge. Civilizations rise and fall, libraries burn, and technologies disappear. What seems impossibly advanced in one era can be completely forgotten in the next. In this sense, the mechanism is not merely a technical marvel. It is a monument to human potential and human loss, a reminder that history is often incomplete, that what we take for granted as progress may be punctuated by gaps and absences that no modern reconstruction can fully bridge. As modern science continues to dissect and model the mechanism, new insights emerge slowly. Each revelation raises further questions. Advances in imaging, computational modeling, and materials analysis have allowed researchers to reconstruct its functions with greater fidelity. Yet, every answer seems to deepen the mystery. For example, reconstructions show the device could predict the timing of Pan-Hellenic games, the cycles of the moon, and even eclipses visible across the Mediterranean. Yet, the sheer ambition of its design, its ability to map cosmic phenomena with gearwork alone, suggests a worldview and technological culture we are only beginning to comprehend. How did they translate abstract astronomical knowledge into tangible mechanical form? What other devices might have existed alongside it, now lost to time, waiting to be rediscovered. Perhaps the most compelling element of the mechanism is its quiet insistence on wonder. There is no flashy proclamation, no overt message. It does not boast of its own ingenuity. It simply exists, an artifact of both precision and mystery, inviting contemplation. Its gears and inscriptions are a dialogue across millennia, challenging us to imagine the hands that turned them, the minds that envisioned them, and the world that produced such a marvel. In its silent complexity lies a paradox. We understand enough to be astonished, yet not enough to claim certainty. And so as the fragments rest in their glass cases or beneath careful X-ray analysis, the questions persist. How many such devices were there? How far did this knowledge extend? And what caused it to vanish from human memory? Are there other artifacts still buried that could illuminate the story further? Or is the mechanism a solitary whisper from a civilization glimpsed only through fragments of bronze and inscriptions? The sea gave it back. Yet it refuses to yield all its secrets, leaving us suspended between comprehension and awe. In the quiet contemplation of this ancient calculator, one cannot help but wonder how much of human history, ingenuity, and knowledge lies hidden, waiting for the right moment, the right hands to bring it to light. The mechanism in all its mechanical elegance and historical ambiguity reminds us that some mysteries are not meant to be fully solved. They are meant to be experienced, pondered, and marveled at, bridging the gap between past and present, knowledge and imagination. Tucked away in the quiet halls of Yale University's Buy a Rare Book and Manuscript Library lies a small, unassuming codex, its faded vellum pages bound in soft, worn leather. At first glance, it might seem like any other medieval manuscript, yet a closer inspection reveals an enigma unlike anything scholars have ever encountered. This is the Voynich manuscript, a book that has resisted understanding for over a century, a puzzle of ink, parchment, and imagination that seems to defy time itself. Opening its pages is like stepping into another world. Rows of flowing, looping script wind across the vellum in a language that no one has definitively deciphered. There are no annotations in any known alphabet, no marginal notes from scribes or scholars, only the text itself accompanied by intricate illustrations of plants, astronomical diagrams, and human figures engaged in mysterious, often unidentifiable rituals. The colors, deep greens, rich blues, and occasional bursts of crimson, have faded over centuries, yet they retain a vibrant, almost uncanny vitality, as if the manuscript were resisting the march of time. The origin of the Voynich manuscript is itself a subject of careful scrutiny and debate. Carbon dating places the creation of the vellum in the early 15th century, somewhere between 1404 and 1438, situating the book squarely within the European Renaissance. Yet the script refuses to yield any known linguistic patterns. Cryptographers, linguists, and historians have pored over it for decades, employing every tool from statistical analysis to modern computational decryption. And still the text remains a cipher without a key. How can a manuscript so meticulously crafted and so evidently designed to convey information produce only silence to the modern mind? Was it meant to communicate knowledge that has been lost? Or was it created as an elaborate intellectual game, perhaps even a hoax? The illustrations add another layer to the mystery. Some pages feature plants unlike any seen in Europe, Asia, or the Americas. Their shapes suggest hybrids that defy botanical classification. Others depict astronomical and cosmological diagrams, spirals of stars and spheres that hint at a sophisticated understanding of the heavens. Then there are the human figures, mostly women, sometimes bathing in pools, their forms surrounded by pipes, tubes, or other geometric shapes whose purpose remains opaque. Scholars debate whether these images represent medical or alchemical practices, mystical rituals, or a coded system of knowledge now lost to history. Each turn of the page deepens the sense of strangeness, a feeling that one is peering into the mind of someone profoundly different from ourselves. Despite its enigmatic script, the manuscript shows remarkable internal consistency. Statistical analyses reveal that the patterns of its text differ fundamentally from gibberish with repeating sequences, linguistic-like structures, and predictable distributions of words and characters. This consistency has led some experts to suggest that the Voynich manuscript represents a genuine language, one that simply has no surviving counterpart. Could it be a constructed language, an elaborate cipher intended to hide knowledge from all but the initiated? Or might it be the expression of a previously unknown culture, one whose linguistic and symbolic system vanished before leaving other traces in history? Mainstream explanations focus on the manuscript as a Renaissance curiosity, a scholarly codex intended for a small circle of learned individuals. Some propose it was the work of a polymath or an alchemist, documenting botanical remedies, astrological insights, or mystical practices. Others speculate it might have been commissioned by a wealthy patron fascinated with secrecy and knowledge, a compendium designed to convey wisdom to a select few while keeping outsiders in the dark. The reality, however, remains elusive. No definitive ownership records exist before its 17th century appearance in the collection of Emperor Rudolph II of the Holy Roman Empire, who reportedly believed it to be the work of Roger Bacon, the medieval English philosopher and scientist. Beyond that, the trail grows cold, leaving historians to grapple with speculation. Fringe theories abound, some more imaginative than others. There are those who posit extraterrestrial influence, suggesting the script and images encode knowledge from another world. Others propose time travel, lost civilizations, or secret societies as possible sources, weaving narratives that are more speculative fiction than historical documentation. While these ideas cannot be substantiated, the fact that they persist highlights the profound unease and fascination the manuscript inspires. It is not merely a curiosity. It is a mirror reflecting our desire to understand, to find patterns, and to confront the limits of knowledge itself. Recent technological advances have offered tantalizing yet incomplete insights. Multispectral imaging has revealed faded text and hidden annotations, while computational models have attempted to crack its code. Certain patterns suggest that the text may encode natural language information, while other features hint at symbolic or mnemonic systems, designed to record knowledge in a highly compressed form. Yet every discovery seems to raise more questions than it answers. Could the manuscript contain medical prescriptions or astronomical observations, or entirely metaphorical systems of thought that are not literal at all? The lack of external reference makes interpretation nearly impossible. Perhaps the most haunting aspect of the Voynich manuscript is the human story it represents, or more accurately, the absence of one. Whoever created it has left no signature, no authorial mark, no commentary to guide us. In its place is a meticulously crafted artifact that bridges art, science, and enigma. Each page is a testament to the mind that conceived it, yet that mind remains invisible. What motivated its creation? Was it curiosity, ambition, secrecy, or perhaps something that defies categorization? And how many other works, equally brilliant or enigmatic, have vanished entirely, leaving only fragments or whispers behind? Holding a facsimile or examining high-resolution images of the manuscript, one is struck by the tension between intimacy and distance. The book invites scrutiny, yet it simultaneously resists understanding. Its visual and textual elements draw the observer into a dialogue across time, yet the conversation remains one-sided. In a sense, the manuscript exists not only as an artifact, but as a question, a reminder of how much of human knowledge and imagination can remain inaccessible even when preserved. And yet, despite or perhaps because of its mysteries, the voyage manuscript continues to captivate. It challenges scholars, cryptographers, historians, and enthusiasts alike to stretch the boundaries of their expertise, to confront uncertainty, and to grapple with the limits of interpretation. Each theory, each attempt at translation is both a step forward and a reminder of how far we remain from the truth. In the quiet halls of the library, under dim light that glances off its yellowed pages, the manuscript remains enigmatic and patient. It is a relic that refuses to be fully known, a puzzle that compels curiosity while defying resolution. Its message, if one exists, is still out of reach, concealed in a language no modern scholar has yet unlocked. And so it invites us to wonder what knowledge has been lost to time, and what truths might still be waiting, hidden in plain sight, in places we have yet to look. The voyage manuscript, with its looping text and impossible plans, reminds us that mystery is not always a void to be filled, but a presence to be felt. It is a testament to human creativity, a challenge to our assumptions, and a whisper from a past that continues to elude comprehension. What secrets might one day be revealed? And what enigmas will remain, patiently waiting for centuries more before they give themselves up? In the arid plains along the Yellow River, where the dust settles thick over fields, and the wind whispers through ancient ruins, fragments of a civilization long vanished lie buried beneath centuries of soil. Among them, the most enigmatic of all are not statues, not bronze weapons, nor the remnants of palaces, but thin, curved pieces of bone and shell, etched with lines and symbols that seem at once familiar and utterly alien. These are the oracle bones of ancient China, artifacts that speak across millennia, their quiet authority resonating with the weight of history and the enduring human desire to peer into the unknown. At first glance, an oracle bone is unassuming, a fragment of shoulder blade, often from an ox or the plaster of a tortoise, carefully scraped and smoothed, scarred with intricate carvings. Yet these carvings are not mere decoration. They are the earliest known examples of Chinese writing. Each stroke deliberate, each character a message intended to bridge the mortal and the divine. The bones bear inscriptions recording questions posed to ancestors or gods, often about the outcomes of battles, success of harvests, and the health of the royal lineage. They are tangible evidence of a civilization that sought to manipulate fate, to seek guidance from unseen forces, and to record those answers for posterity. The story of their discovery is as compelling as their content. Oracle bones were first unearthed in significant numbers in the late 19th and early 20th centuries in the ancient city of Anyang, once the capital of the Shang dynasty. Farmers digging wells stumbled upon these curious artifacts, at first sold as dragon bones to apothecaries for use in traditional medicine. It was only when scholars examined the inscriptions that their true significance emerged. The bones contained the earliest written records in Chinese history, predating previously known texts by centuries. Suddenly, these fragments, once dismissed as curiosities, revealed themselves as keys to understanding the Shang civilization, its politics, its religion, and its complex system of divination. The process of divination recorded on the bones is as fascinating as it is mysterious. Scribes would carve questions into the bone, often invoking ancestors for guidance. Then, using heated metal rods, they would apply intense heat to the back of the bone or shell until it cracked. These cracks were then interpreted by divers. The patterns read as messages from the spiritual realm. The inscriptions frequently recorded both the question and the interpretation, sometimes even noting the outcome to see whether the prophecy had come true. It is a system that merges art, science, and ritual, creating a permanent record of humanity's earliest attempts to understand and influence the forces beyond comprehension. Yet for all their clarity, the oracle bones retain an air of enigma. Scholars can read many of the characters, yet much of the writing is cryptic. Symbols, sometimes inconsistent, meanings lost over centuries of linguistic evolution. The questions themselves often hint at a society deeply concerned with forces beyond the human realm. The movement of celestial bodies, the favor of ancestors, and the whims of gods whose identities and powers we may never fully understand. Were these rituals purely pragmatic, a form of early risk management? Or did they embody a worldview in which the living and the dead were in constant dialogue, where time and causality were fluid, and the outcomes of decisions were inseparable from the will of unseen forces? Mainstream historical interpretation situates the oracle bones firmly within the Shang dynasty, roughly 1600 to 1046 BCE, as evidence of a highly organized state with sophisticated social, religious, and administrative structures. The inscriptions reveal kings consulting ancestors on matters of war, agriculture, weather, and health, suggesting an early form of bureaucratic oversight infused with spiritual authority. Yet the level of literacy required to produce these inscriptions, the precision of the carving, and the complexity of the questions all point to a culture capable of remarkable intellectual achievement. How did such knowledge develop in a society that otherwise seems so distant from our modern conception of science and documentation? What methods, now lost to time, allowed divers to combine observation, intuition, and ritual into a system that was both practical and symbolic? Beyond their historical significance, the oracle bones also provoke more speculative questions. Some researchers have noted patterns in the inscriptions that suggest a proto-scientific approach to observation, almost like early attempts at hypothesis and testing. Could these divers have been recording subtle correlations between natural events, celestial movements, and human outcomes, creating a primitive form of empirical knowledge that has largely been lost? Others have suggested the bones may encode esoteric wisdom, a blend of theology, astrology, and philosophy transmitted selectively to those initiated into the ritual practices of Shang elite. And then there are those who wonder if the bones hint at connections to other now vanished traditions of divination, knowledge that was not unique to the Yellow River, but part of a broader ancient network of human inquiry into fate and the cosmos. The bones themselves also bear traces of mystery in their physical form. Some display unusual cracking patterns that defy easy explanation. Others show evidence of secondary inscription, as if reused or reinterpreted over time. Certain characters remain undeciphered, tantalizing scholars with glimpses of linguistic systems that may have existed alongside early Chinese writing, but have no surviving analogies. Could these elements indicate a deeper level of meaning? Hidden messages intended only for those with the right knowledge, or simply the evolution of a script in its earliest stages? In either case, they remind us that even the most studied artifacts retain secrets beyond the reach of certainty. Modern technology has enabled new ways to examine the oracle bones, revealing insights invisible to the naked eye. High-resolution imaging, 3D scanning, and microscopic analysis uncover details of carving techniques, the sequence of inscription, and subtle variations in tool marks. These studies provide glimpses into the hands that made them, the scribes and divers who engaged in meticulous work, translating the abstract world of spirits into tangible signs. Yet despite all this scrutiny, the bones continue to resist complete understanding. Every revelation raises further questions about the intentions of the divers, the nature of the questions, and the worldview that informed such a sophisticated blend of ritual, observation, and record-keeping. The oracle bones also serve as a reflection on the impermanence of knowledge. The Shang dynasty, once a formidable civilization, left few material traces beyond these artifacts, fragments of bronze and the occasional architectural remnant. What we know of their culture is filtered through these bones, a record of human curiosity, fear, and ingenuity preserved against the odds. In this sense, they are more than historical objects. They are echoes of human consciousness. Faint voices, speaking across thousands of years, reminding us that much of what we take for granted as knowledge can be lost, buried, and only partially recovered. Yet, even with all that has been learned, the bones retain an aura of the unknown. Their messages are at once clear and opaque, grounded in ritual practice, yet suggestive of larger philosophical or cosmological systems we may never fully grasp. How did the divers conceptualize the relationship between cause and effect, life and death, the visible and invisible worlds? What other methods of knowledge now vanished might have existed alongside these practices? Were these bones an ordinary tool of statcraft? Or did they represent a deeper, almost mystical attempt to engage with the unknown forces that shaped human life? In examining the oracle bones, one confronts the delicate balance between certainty and wonder. They are both evidence and question, artifact and mystery, a tangible connection to a civilization that mastered the written word while grappling with forces beyond its understanding. As we peer into their etched surfaces, tracing the lines carved by hands long gone, we are reminded that the past is rarely fully knowa, that is partially illuminated by fragments, shaped by interpretation, and shadowed by absences that may never be filled. And so the oracle bones endure, silent yet eloquent, bridging time and thought. They invite us not only to study and decipher, but to reflect on the human impulse to seek guidance, to impose order upon uncertainty, and to leave a trace of our understanding for those who follow. They are a testament to early civilization's attempt to touch the unknown, a reminder that even the simplest fragment of bone can carry the weight of centuries, the whisper of ancestors, and the challenge of mysteries yet unresolved. As the sun sets over the plains of the Yellow River, casting long shadows over the ruins of ancient palaces, one can almost imagine the divers of the Shang dynasty at work, their tools in hand, questions on their lips, eyes fixed on the flames and cracks that might reveal the future. The bee in the quiet climate-controlled halls of the Bennick Rare Book and Manuscript Library at Yale University. A single sheet of parchment lies flat under soft protective glass. Its surface is aged and yellowed, the edges carefully preserved, and yet the markings upon it, lines, colors, and inscriptions, carry a weight far beyond its modest size. This is the Vinland map, a document that has captured imaginations and confounded historians for decades. On it, the coastlines of Europe, Africa, and Asia are rendered with careful attention. But to the west, beyond Greenland, stretches a mysterious land-labeled Vinland, a territory that hints at voyages across the Atlantic long before Columbus set sail in 1492. The map's story begins not on the parchment itself, but in the shadows of history. Scholars first encountered the Vinland map in the mid-10th century, though the document was said to have been created in the 5th and 10th century. Its provenance, however, is tangled and uncertain. Some records suggest it was part of the collection of a European scholar, possibly a monk, while others trace its journey through private collectors and obscure auctions. The map emerged in the public eye in 1957 when historian and collector Ross Skelton brought it to academic attention. Its revelation stirred controversy almost immediately, for it seemed to challenge established historical timelines, if genuine. It suggested that Norse explorers had reached North America, specifically the region of Newfoundland, centuries before Christopher Columbus. Holding the Vinland map, or even gazing upon high-resolution images, is an immersive experience. The parchment is fragile, each fiber a reminder of the centuries it has survived. Its geography is meticulous, yet peculiar. Europe is recognizable, though drawn with a medieval eye. The British Isles appear elongated, the Mediterranean exaggerated. Greenland is clearly marked, and beyond it a landmass, Vinland, is delineated. In broad strokes, the script, neat and Latin in form, labels regions and islands, but offers little in the way of explanatory notes. It is, in essence, a puzzle of geography and chronology, a silent record that raises profound questions about the reach of human exploration and the circulation of knowledge in medieval Europe. The Vinland map's significance lies not merely in its content, but in the implications it carries. If authentic, it could rewrite aspects of history, confirming that Norse explorers had crossed the Atlantic and reached the shores of North America hundreds of years before the age of exploration, traditionally credited to Columbus. This possibility alone has fueled intense scholarly interest and fierce debate. Yet, as investigations have progressed, so too have the questions multiplied. How was such geographic knowledge obtained and transmitted? Were the Norse navigating with methods far more sophisticated than we previously assumed? Or does the map represent a later fabrication, a forgery created to lend prestige to certain collections or individuals? Mainstream historical interpretation places the map within a context of medieval scholarship and exploration. The Norse sagas, particularly the accounts of Leif Erikson and other explorers, describe voyages to lands west of Greenland, lands with plentiful timber, fertile soil, and abundant resources. Archaeological evidence, including the settlement at Leon's O Meadows in Newfoundland, confirms that Norse presence in North America did occur, albeit briefly. In this light, the Vinland map could be seen as an extension of these journeys, a tangible record that complements the sagas and archaeological findings. Yet, the map is far more than mere confirmation. It suggests a continuity of knowledge, a link between oral tradition, written scholarship, and practical navigation that is difficult to trace fully. Scientific analysis of the map has added layers to the mystery. Early studies of the ink, parchment, and pigments aim to determine its age and origin. Radiocarbon dating of the vellum supports a 5th–10th century creation, roughly consistent with the claims of authenticity. However, chemical analysis of the ink has produced conflicting results. Certain compounds appear consistent with medieval European inks, while traces of modern titanium dioxide have led some researchers to suggest forgery. Debates over the map's authenticity have intensified as analytical techniques have become more precise, yet no consensus has been reached. Could the presence of anachronistic materials be the result of contamination over centuries? Or do they point to deliberate fabrication? The answer remains tantalizingly out of reach. Beyond the scientific debates, the map evokes a sense of narrative mystery. Its landmasses are annotated with names that resonate with Norse sagas, yet the correspondence is imperfect. Vinland itself is depicted inconsistently, its exact contours vague, its scale uncertain. Scholars have attempted to reconcile its geography with known North American coastlines, producing maps that sometimes match Newfoundland. Other times suggest broader, more speculative interpretations. Was the map intended as an accurate navigational tool, a scholarly exercise, or a conceptual representation of lands known through rumor, exploration, or legend? Each possibility raises further questions about the knowledge and intent of its creator. Speculative theories surrounding the Vinland map are as varied as they are imaginative. Some suggest that it represents evidence of pre-Columbian transatlantic contact, not only by Norse explorers, but potentially by other cultures as well. Could knowledge of the Western lands have circulated through trade networks, intellectual exchanges, or maritime voyages, reaching the hands of scholars who recorded it on parchment? Others propose that the map was part of a larger political or religious agenda designed to legitimize claims of exploration, settlement, or authority over distant lands. More fringe theories even hint at knowledge lost to history, secret traditions of navigation and geography that disappeared without trace. While these ideas remain speculative, they underscore the map's capacity to challenge assumptions, to blur the line between history and possibility, and to ignite curiosity about what might lie hidden in the unrecorded voyages of the past. The Vinland map also serves as a reflection on the fragility of historical memory. Few artifacts from the 5th century survive intact, and fewer still carry the potential to reshape our understanding of exploration. The map is a singular object, one document whose provenance, authenticity, and meaning are contested at every turn. Its survival is improbable, and yet, here it is, a fragment of human ambition, curiosity, and perhaps imagination preserved against the odds. The questions it raises are not limited to geography. They touch upon human ingenuity, the transmission of knowledge, and the ways in which we construct narratives of the past. Examining the map today, one is struck by the interplay of certainty and ambiguity. On the one hand, the physical evidence, the vellum, the ink, the Latin inscriptions, anchor it firmly in the realm of medieval Europe. On the other, the map's depiction of lands across the Atlantic suggests knowledge that should have been beyond the reach of 5th century scholars. Who drew the map? And what sources informed their work? Were they compiling oral histories, consulting other maps now lost, or engaging in educated guesswork informed by the sagas and scattered reports from sailors? The gaps between what is known and what is suggested give the Vinland map its persistent aura of mystery, compelling observers to weigh fact and speculation, evidence and imagination. In this sense, the Vinland map is more than a cartographic curiosity. It is a bridge across centuries, a tangible point of contact with human exploration, ambition, and uncertainty. It asks us to consider how knowledge was accumulated, transmitted, and preserved in the pre-modern world. It challenges us to imagine the voyages that may have occurred, the encounters that may have taken place, and the stories that were told or forgotten along the way. Every line, every annotation carries the potential to rewrite a portion of history, or to reinforce the sense of wonder that surrounds it. Even as modern technology offers new tools for analysis, the map continues to resist full comprehension. Multispectral imaging, chemical assays, and historical scholarship have illuminated certain aspects of its construction, yet each discovery seems to raise new questions. Was it an authentic record of early Norse exploration, a sophisticated forgery intended to impress or deceive, or a hybrid, a medieval scholar's imaginative reconstruction of distant lands informed by fragments of knowledge, hearsay, and legend? The uncertainty is not a flaw, but part of the map's allure, a reminder that history is rarely straightforward, and that the past often leaves only fragments for us to interpret. And so, the Vinland map endures as a silent witness to exploration, ambition, and mystery. It invites us to trace its coastlines with the mind's eye, to follow the routes that may have carried intrepid voyagers across the Atlantic, and to ponder the knowledge, skill, and imagination required to chart the unknown. It reminds us that the act of discovery is both tangible and conceptual, that maps are not merely representations of the world, but reflections of human understanding, curiosity, and desire. As we stand before this delicate parchment, we are left with questions that reach beyond geography. How many journeys have been lost to time? How much knowledge has vanished, leaving only whispers of possibility? Could the Vinland map be a key to understanding a hidden chapter of human history? Or is it a testament to the imagination and ambition of a single scholar? And most profoundly, what other artifacts, still buried, still undiscovered, might challenge our assumptions about exploration, navigation, and the human reach into the unknown? The Vinland map, in its quiet, deliberate complexity, embodies both. certainty and ambiguity. It bridges the known and the unknown, the documented and the speculative, and invites us to marvel at the possibilities of human endeavor. Perhaps in the end, its greatest legacy is not the answers it provides, but the questions it inspires. Questions that echo across centuries, patiently waiting for the next observer to trace its coastlines, follow its lines, and wonder what lies beyond the horizon. Nestled in the highlands of the Valley of Tuca, just a few hours west of modern-day Mexico City, lies the site of Kixlavaca, once a vibrant pre-Hispanic settlement. Its ruins are quietly tucked amidst rolling hills and sparse vegetation, whispering stories of civilizations long vanished. The sun casts gentle shadows across the crumbling stone foundations, and the wind carries the faintest hint of dust in history, as if the earth itself is reluctant to release its secrets. Amid these ancient stones, archaeologists uncovered an artifact so small yet so profoundly puzzling that it continues to stir curiosity across the globe. The Teak-Kix Lockahead. The object is unassuming at first glance. No larger than a human thumb, it is a tiny terracotta figurine, exquisitely detailed, depicting a man's head adorned with a distinctive helmet and facial features that are immediately striking. Unlike the stylized representations typically seen in Mesoamerican art, this figure exhibits a form of realism that is remarkably European in appearance. Its nose is straight and narrow, its cheekbones pronounced, and its eyes convey an almost lifelike intensity. The helmet, a rounded cap with a small visor, resembles those worn by Roman soldiers in the 1st century CE, a detail that would, if accurate, place it far outside the realm of the known indigenous cultures of the region. The head was discovered in 1933 by Mexican archaeologist José García Payan during excavations at Kixlavaca within a carefully stratified burial site. It lay among artifacts unmistakably of local origin: ceramic vessels, obsidian blades, and stone figurines characteristic of the Mlatsinca culture. According to the meticulous records of the excavation, the layer in which the head was found was dated to approximately 1476 CE, well before European contact with the interior of Mexico. In other words, it predated the arrival of the Spanish by several decades. The implications were and remain extraordinary. How could a figure so distinctly European, seemingly Romang in its design, exist in pre-Columbian Mexico? Scholars and skeptics alike have approached the object with caution. Mainstream explanations often suggest that the head may have been a modern intrusion, perhaps accidentally introduced during excavation or by later occupants of the site. This is plausible. Small objects can easily be misplaced or mixed across layers over centuries of human activity. Yet the careful documentation by García Payan and subsequent examinations of the site suggest otherwise. The stratigraphy was intact, the context consistent with a 15th century burial. The artifact had not been dislodged or moved. Scientific investigations have attempted to shed further light on the mystery. Thermoluminescence testing, a method used to determine when ceramic materials were last fired, has placed the creation of the toxic chicken walk-ahead between the 1st century BCE and the 1st century CE. This aligns intriguingly with the stylistic parallels to Roman artifacts, yet leaves historians grappling with a profound chronological and geographical puzzle. Could Roman traders or even a lone traveler have somehow crossed the Atlantic and reached central Mexico? Conventional history holds that such contact was highly unlikely, if not impossible. The known voyages of the time did not extend across the Atlantic in a manner that would connect Europe to Mesoamerica. Despite the weight of conventional scholarship, the artifact's appearance continues to provoke speculation. Some researchers point to the possibility of cultural convergence, a chance similarity in artistic representation across continents. Human faces and helmets are universal motifs after all, and one could argue that the resemblance to Roman military attire is coincidental. Yet the uncanny precision of the features combined with the historical context has invited more adventurous interpretations. Could the head be evidence of transoceanic contact long before Columbus? Might it hint at a forgotten chapter in the movement of peoples and ideas across the ancient world? Fringe theories, though unverified, add another layer of intrigue. Some suggest that the figure represents a European observer or settler who arrived centuries before documented contact, a lone traveler whose presence went unrecorded in the annals of history. Others have ventured into more speculative territory, proposing lost civilizations, secret voyages, or even metaphysical explanations, as if the artifact somehow transcends conventional understanding of time and geography. While such ideas remain on the edge of plausibility, they underscore the head's power to capture the imagination and challenge the assumptions of established history. The artifact itself, though small, is a masterclass in craftsmanship. Close inspection reveals finely incised details around the eyes and mouth, a carefully rendered hairline, and a subtle attention to proportion that is unusual for the period in which it was purportedly created. The terracotta bears traces of a reddish-brown slip, and microscopic analysis suggests that it was fired at a consistent high temperature indicative of advanced ceramic techniques. These qualities have fueled the argument that the figure was not merely a crude or symbolic piece, but a deliberate, skillful representation, likely created by an artisan with a clear intention to capture human likeness. Equally compelling is the context of its discovery. Czechoslovakia was a significant regional center known for its intricate society, ceremonial structures, and extensive trade networks within Mesoamerica. The presence of an artifact that so starkly contrasts with local artistic conventions raises questions about the movement of ideas, objects, and peoples. Could it have been a gift, a curiosity, or a trophy carried along far-reaching trade routes? Or does it suggest something far more enigmatic? A fleeting, almost imperceptible encounter between civilizations separated by oceans and centuries?